We only have 3 more weekends. Embrace it. Good stuff. Good action today and tonight in college football across the landscape of the Power Five. Appreciate y'all being here late night. We just posted Michigan-Purdue. What a game that was. Instant analysis right here at the Voice of College Football. Also, Bama-LSU. Instant analysis earlier in the day. 3 games. Let's see. Ohio State, Rutgers, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Clemson, Notre Dame. Let's break down the action as it stands right now. Just a few games on the West Coast. And of course, we invite you to call the show. We will drop the link in the chat here in just a second. Let's get to it. Oregon State and Colorado at halftime. Suddenly the Buffs have no offense. They have had issues in recent weeks. The offensive line is atrocious. Deion Sanders, of course, has replaced his offensive coordinator in regards to the play calling duties at the offensive coordinator position with Pat Shurmur, the longtime NFL head coach, takes over for Sean Lewis. They are co-offensive coordinators now, and it's working out well in the first half. 14-3, Oregon State in this one. DJ Uiagalelei has thrown a touchdown. Damian Martinez has 60 yards for the Beavs at halftime. We also have UCLA, Arizona. Wildcats lead at 14-6, second quarter. And I believe those are the only games. Why does this freaking thing default to the top 25? It pisses me off every time I change it. I got to change it over and over and over and over and over. I changed it again. Finally. Okay. In the FBS, Stanford and Washington State are in the fourth quarter. Whoo, there's the barn burner. The Cougars were playing good football for a long time, and now they've been awful. They can't beat Stanford at this point. 9 minutes left in the game, 7-7 ball game in the Palouse. And Boise State and Fresno State, big game in the Mountain West there. Boise comes in at 3-1 and Fresno State at 3-1, 20-10 Bulldogs. And those are your ball games right now. We will run through the games that matter real quick. Let's do this. Give my take on what we have here. I haven't even delivered the link, and somehow we've got like 17 people waiting. Okay, Buckeyes win over Rutgers 35-16. It was tougher than the score would indicate. Ohio State's defense played great in the red zone, gave up rushing yardage to Kyle Monange, and yeah, it was a hard-fought win. It was not close in the fourth quarter. The Buckeyes clearly the better team and all those things. Rutgers a very improved team. But Ohio State was far from dominant in that game. Kyle McCord hit on most of his passes. I forget the statistics right now. I posted the video and have the stats there. And, of course, they're online. And threw 3 touchdowns, 2 to Marvin Harrison. Kansas State and Texas. Man, the Wildcats blew this game. I did not see this game. It's difficult for me to choose ball games from window to window. And so I had other games that I was watching. I was watching 3 games at noon and did not choose Texas and Kansas State. I did think it was going to be an excellent game. I did pick Kansas State to win the game, and it looks like they should have won the game. I didn't really even see the overtime. I saw that they botched a 4th down play, that they should have kicked a field goal. I would have kicked the field goal. I think it was about a 4th and 5 play. They were down 17-0. This shows us right here. This is a perfect example. Everybody put Oklahoma and Texas in the Big 12 championship game. I said from the time that they played that was the most likely. They looked like the best teams, but still, that was more of a comment made about the rest of the conference not being up to par or not playing up to those two. But all you have to do is watch college football for a while, and you understand that these games are possible. Kansas State was actually only a 3-point underdog on the road, and or 4 points. That was one of my picks. I took Kansas State plus the 4. They only lost by 3 in overtime. Big win for Texas. However you get it done, you get it done in November, and it counts. You're going to see, as we do every November, you're going to see the championship contenders, whether you mean college football playoff contenders, well, let's keep it in that category. College football playoff contenders struggling with the lesser teams. Ole Miss and Texas A&M. This is a perfect example of two teams that are like this. And you would say, Mark, well, Ole Miss is 8-1 and Texas A&M's 5-4. They're not like this. Yes, they are. From a talent perspective, from every conceivable standard. However, Ole Miss just has some intangibles going for them, some breaks. They've played better in the clutch, the poise. There are some intangibles that Ole Miss has in play right now that Texas A&M does not. If I'm Texas A&M, man, I got to tell you, I am figuring out how to gather up $76 million or more like $50 million to get Jimbo Fisher on the road. This is enough. 7 years. He's 5-4. He's 5-4. Rutgers is 6-3, and they just played the number one team in the country. He's 5-4. They're close, kind of. But Ole Miss is not the top of the SEC, so they're not really that close. It was a really good ball game. I had some guy that I've known for a long time, and I have some level of respect for him as a media person. But on Twitter, he was making fun of Max Johnson, and I'm thinking, you probably don't know much about college football, do you? So I stuck up for Max Johnson on Twitter, and then he's making jokes back and forth about how awful Max Johnson is. And I'm like, yeah, it was quite the back and forth. So anyway, Texas A&M, Ole Miss. Ole Miss wins at 38-35. Jackson Dart threw some great passes. And if you've not seen what is probably the catch of the year from Trey Harris, check it out. And he went 11 catches for 213. Clemson, perfect example. Put them in the same boat as Texas A&M in some ways, although Dabo should have, of course, much more of a leash than Jimbo Fisher. Dabo, I saw morons on social media this week that were talking about Dabo and his job being insecure and his job security in doubt. Okay, you would have to be a moron to think that Clemson would be ready to get rid of Dabo Swinney. They stood up for their coach. Of course, he had the funny exchange with the dude from South Carolina, I guess it is, this week. And so Clemson wins 31-23. And actually, the exchange that I was talking about on Twitter concerning Max Johnson, it started with a tweet about who saw this coming, Clemson defeating Notre Dame. And I was like, I did. I picked Clemson. Tennessee wins big over UConn 59-3. Utah wins. Arizona State's been playing some good football, but not today, 55-3. Army over Air Force. Shocker there, 23-3. But these are the things that happen. It's, of course, a rivalry. Mizzou played well against Georgia. This is one of these situations where I can almost guarantee Mizzou is going to drop in the rankings, whether that's the AP rankings or the College Football Playoff Committee rankings. If they drop in the AP rankings, that's just run of the mill. That's what they do. They don't know what they're doing. Most of them. I'm not going to say all of them don't know what they're doing, but most of them have no clue as to rank teams. That this performance in Athens against possibly the best team in the country, one of the top 3 or 4, it actually is the better than any win that Missouri has. This is actually confirmation, justification of what Mizzou football is, that they're better than we thought. They should rise in the rankings based on this result. This was a good football game. I almost did a instant analysis of that, but by the time I did all the noon games, I just saw the second half. Florida State over Pitt in kind of a lazy game. Pitt actually played much better than I expected. And Florida State, I don't know that they're a serious national championship contender. So making the playoff different than winning the national championship, 24-7 over Pitt. Oklahoma loses at Bedlam. Again, this was a game that once I got through all my noon analysis, it was difficult to lock in on this one. So I don't know as much as I would like here, although I was watching the last 7 or 8 minutes of this game. Oklahoma State, this might be the best story in college football in regards to a comeback story. The Cowboys and Mike Gundy being made fun of in September. Look at them in November, tied for first place in the Big 12. 27-24, and they will have the head-to-head, as will Kansas, although the Jayhawks have 2 losses against OU. So we may not have our Texas-Oklahoma Big 12 championship game like most people assumed. Penn State, is this a statement game? Did they truly bounce back? Maryland's been playing like garbage, so 51-15, they win. Louisville, Virginia Tech, this game kind of went the way most of us thought, even though I had these thoughts of maybe Virginia Tech, maybe this could be a Cinderella story, that they actually proved that their recent wins mean something, but they beat really bad teams. Louisville showed that there's definite separation. Louisville doesn't get enough respect for what they've accomplished this year thus far at 8-1. They win by 31 over Virginia Tech. Tulane, East Carolina. Perfect example here, and I appreciate everyone calling. We'll get to your calls in just a second. Tulane and East Carolina. Perfect example of group of 5 football and the disparity between the Power 5 and the group of 5. I say this all the time. Tulane may be the best group of 5 team. They struggled mightily with East Carolina 13-10. Look at what Houston, Cincinnati, and BYU, forget BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston, coming from the American Conference, are doing in the Big 12. Going into this weekend, they were 3-17 against the Big 12. 3-17. 2 of those wins, one of those wins was against each other. So they were like 2-14 or 2-15 against Big 12. The Big 12 is not even that good of a conference. That is taking the best teams, like 3 of the top 6 or 7 in the group of 5, elevating them to the Power 5, and them showing. This is why I don't rank a group of 5 team until they prove something. Tulane's a good team. There's no question. They are a good team, but they beat East Carolina by 3 points. Oregon just crushed Cal. I saw none of that. I know that Bo Nix had a big game, 386 in the air, 4 touchdowns. Kansas over Iowa State. I thought that would be a good game. Didn't get to see much of that. Kansas State jumped out early. They win 28-21. Actually, it was, they win 28-21. We talked Michigan-Purdue, I believe. Yeah, Wolverines win 41-13. Washington, wow, USC. This game turned out to be what we thought it would be. Our guy Steve Merrill at Wager Talk said, take the over, take the over, take the over. 76, over. 92, 94. Washington, USC, they went back and forth. This USC defense, okay, Washington's really good on offense, but what did they do against Arizona? What did they do even against Oregon or against Arizona State? USC gave up like 350 yards rushing. They're terrible on defense. They're terrible. There were plays in this game where it looked like an Arena Football League game. Like it looked like there were like 2 offensive linemen and 2 defense. Like there were gaps like as wide as this room. Alabama-LSU, for all those people that talked about Jalen Milroe and how awful he is, and after the South Florida game and the Texas loss, and then, of course, they played so awful on offense, put Milroe on the bench, that he's awful. And I said, hang on, relax. There's a reason they kept Milroe. There's a reason he started this season. If Nick Saban saw him for the entire offseason and named him the starting quarterback, he knows what he's doing. They just need to figure out what to do with him. How many times did I say that? They just need to figure out what to do with Jalen Milroe. They figured it out. Let him improvise, run him all over the place, designed running plays. They're running designed plays in the run game with Jalen Milroe that they weren't doing against Texas. They have figured things out. And then when he can throw it, when he's in that pocket, man, he pats that ball and that boy can rip it. And they're a factor in this. They got run around the field by Jaden Daniels, who's an exceptional quarterback, of course. On top of a lot of Heisman lists going into this game, and Jaden Daniels did not disappoint. It wasn't Jaden Daniels' fault that they lost this game. He did put up 21 points in the first half, then came out in the second half blazing. It looked like if you had your remote going, you could go between Milroe and Daniels on one channel and Penix and Williams on the other channel and would have no idea which was which. But the Bama defense took control, only gave up 1 touchdown in the second half. And then there was a sequence with the concussion protocol and the targeting on Jaden Daniels. He had to leave the game. Garrett Nussmeier came in. They had all sorts of issues with the snap. Even when Daniels was in the game, Josh Turner, can't think of the LSU center's name, redshirt senior, but had issues snapping the football. False starts all over the place, and LSU loses to Bama. Bama controls the West. They just need to not trip up to get to, of course, the college football playoff, put themselves in position in the SEC title game. 2 reasonably difficult games. Auburn, of course, the Iron Bowl, and then next week is Kentucky. They got the scrimmage in between. All right, you've waited patiently. Remember the Amazon links in the description section. This is very easy, folks. We have like 100 people watching, and 80 of you shop on Amazon. 80 of you. Please use the Amazon link in the description section. If you don't shop on Amazon, I'm not promoting that you should in any such way. Please continue to shop in whatever manner that you do. But if you shop on Amazon, please grab the link in the description section of the video. Any of the videos, put it somewhere. You'll remember it. Grab it. Same shopping experience. And you don't want to send all that money to Amazon, do you? Really? They got like $7 trillion. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Here we go. Let's see if we've got, you know what we're going to do before we take these calls is let's get this. I will do this while I take these calls. We want to get this in the description section because we want people. And this is one of the reasons why we need to get the phone line situation taken care of in the off season like we used to. So we can have folks join us that don't normally join us, because as much as I like the old timers and the regulars, we need some fresh blood on here to call the voice of college football, of course. All right, let's get to it. Let's go like 3 minutes a call. Connor, what's going on tonight?
Hey, what's up, man? You like that profile picture?
If I can see it, I'd have to have my contacts in. What are we looking at here? We're looking.
It is it's a stallion wearing a Michigan outfit, man.
Well done. Well done. Yeah, what's going on tonight?
I'm gonna start with Alabama, man. Let me tell you, man. I'm gonna pick them to go to the playoffs.
I already have.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh, before you talking about before the season?
The playoffs, yes.
Oh, okay. I don't know, man. They look dangerous to me. I think they're gonna beat Georgia.
I agree.
There's something about I like Saban teams that are power run teams. And you gotta. I feel like this team is more back to some of his roots. Pretty much, not really early Bama, but kind of back to that mid 2010s style of Bama. Now, obviously, the pass game still isn't going to be what it was with Tua and the last couple quarterbacks, but I think this is more Saban style, and I think it works better for the team.
Well, I get your point. All at the same time, he's never had a quarterback like this.
No.
One he's had like this. So yeah, he's the first one like this.
Yeah, he's the first one like this. I guess the closest, which don't get me wrong, it's still not a great comparison, but I'd say the closest was Jalen Hurts probably.
Yeah. Okay, there's your closest one. It's funny because Jalen Milroe can probably throw the ball better than Jalen Hurts at that point. Jalen Hurts, man, I used to think it was rough watching him throw the football, but he's developed into an MVP level quarterback in the NFL. So
yeah,
him.
I agree with that. But at the same time, yeah. I mean, Jalen was never a prolific thrower, but he made some throws.
Yeah, I forgot about him in making that assessment. I was going through the years. I was going to actually say this is the closest to Jalen Milroe would have been Blake Sims, but yeah, Jalen Hurts. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't got much to say about that. LSU, they've had a shoddy defense this year. I just think I don't know. I just think they're going to beat Georgia. Georgia. I like their quarterback situation, but they're just not as dominant as they've been the last 2 years. They're just not. And I think Mizzou's actually a really good team this year. That quarterback's fast. Mizzou's quarterback's fast, man. Like lightning fast.
Yeah, I did not expect them to compete that well today.
Mizzou is for whatever reason, they usually actually don't. But I mean, last year they gave them a tough game. That was a better Georgia team, arguably, and a worse Mizzou team. I don't know. Sometimes certain opponents, matchup wise, tend to give you a tough game for whatever reason it is. I'm gonna talk about my game real quick, man. I thought they came out. Excuse me. I thought they came out good. Got up 20-0, and then had a very lackluster second quarter. They had that punt that was a turnover because it hit the I forget what player was on his back. Held him to a field goal. But I think the main thing with that game today was two things. I thought JJ was a little off on his ball placement. The plays were there, and I thought the left tackle was getting abused. In my personal opinion, I don't know if you saw that, but
well, I was watching 3 games at the same time, and that was for obvious reasons, that was the third priority. So
yeah, no question.
I would tell you that I'm right there with you with JJ. I still thought he made some great throws, but collectively he missed more throws than he has in a long time.
Yeah, and it wasn't like crazy overthrows. It was just when you should throw it on the outside shoulder, you're throwing it on the inside shoulder. Stuff like that. When you should hit him in the numbers, you're throwing it at his knees. Throws like that. He made the right reads. He just didn't have good ball placement, and that's how I look at that. Donovan Edwards, man, I think it's time that they stop running Donovan Edwards between the tackles. We're 9 games into the season. The dude cannot. I don't know what it is with him this year. He gets like a blow of wind, and he just falls over or falls backwards. I don't know what's up with him this year.
Make him a receiver.
I'm 100% with you. Make him a slot receiver. Put him on the outside like they did on that first drive. And use them. You could use them in the run game, but just use them in different ways.
Yeah,
a lot more outside runs. I don't know if they're just trying to make him happy, but don't you agree? 9 games into the season, and it is what it is at this point with him.
I just know that if he's got he probably has about 60, 65 carries on the season. And if you've got one of the best offensive lines in the country and you're averaging barely 3 yards per carry, then I don't know, there's something wrong for a guy that averaged almost 8 yards a carry last year. That, they need to do something different with him. And I completely agree with you. There aren't a lot of running backs that would consistently do what he did on the first drive when he lined up left and adjusted to the football in the air 40 yards downfield and caught it. He's an excellent pass receiver.
Oh, yeah, 100%. He's had some trouble in pass blocking too, but it's just strange, man, because every other running back on our team can run the ball between the tackles but him. It's just wild. And I don't think this O-line is quite as good as last year at this point. It's still a great O-line. But I mean, tonight I personally think it was their worst performance. This is just me. I think it was their worst performance. I thought the left tackle had a lot of mishaps. And yeah, that's pretty much it with that. I don't got much to say. I thought the defense was as elite as they've always been. Oh, I'll say this. That garbage time touchdown, man. Nothing ticked me off more than that 18-second touchdown because it broke the streak. It broke the streak, man. We were about to go 9 games, not allow more than 10 points, and you give up a touchdown with 18 seconds left in the game.
I didn't like it because I picked Michigan to cover.
I'm with you, man. And oh man, I just wanted that streak. They still got the streak of no first and goals, so that's good. I don't know, man. Maybe if Connor Stallings was on the sideline, maybe it would have been a bigger win.
I think that
I
maybe
don't.
it's 41-6 with him on the sideline.
Maybe it's 52-6. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Last game I'll talk about is Ohio State. I don't know. Rutgers is a good team, man. I've been saying that. They got a good defense. They're not a great team. They're a good team. But honestly, I thought Rutgers probably played better for about 3/4 of that game. I mean, they outgained Ohio State in the game. That pick six was the play of the game.
Yeah.
To completely change the game. Because you're talking about them maybe going up 2 scores. They're in the red zone.
Yeah.
They were running that.
Yep. And you would put pressure on McCord.
Yeah, and they were running.
Yeah.
This is the whole thing about being too cute with play calls that kills me, man. You're running the ball really good on that drive. And I don't even know what that play call was. It was it like a fake? Were they trying to fake? I don't know what it was, but they were trying to fake something
kind of thing.
Yeah, and it just tip drill, interception, changed the game, man. But I don't know, man. There's just not too many dominant. No team's really super dominant. I mean, I still think Michigan's still the most dominant in the country right now, but no team's like running away dominant right now.
No. Yeah, except for Michigan. And Rutgers goes to Iowa next week. Now, after next week, we may be able to say that Rutgers is the 4th best team in the conference.
Yeah.
Not like by leaps and bounds, like definitely they're the 4th best team, because I think after the top 3, you could throw a blanket over like 7 teams and they're almost they could win against each other all over the place. So I'm not saying like definitively like they're in a Penn State slot like number 4, but you could make that argument.
Oh, let me say this, man. Henderson, man, he looking good, man.
He did, and I had to give him some credit today because I've been hard on him for a couple of years in that I just thought he was a little soft, just a finesse runner. But, man, he was looking for contact today. He was lowering his shoulder, finishing runs.
Oh, yeah, and he's getting good vision, his speed, he's got good acceleration. He's looking good right now, man, and that could show up for sure. That could really show up. I'm a little worried about Penn State now, man, because if that O-line don't play, I'll say this, if the O-line played like it did today for Michigan, that's going to be a tight game. Maybe.
If Maryland was as good as I thought they were going to be 6-7 weeks ago, then I would be taking a lot from this Penn State win, number 1. And to your previous point, if I'm Ohio State and they can dominate Michigan State and Minnesota the next 2 weeks, then I'm laying it off on Travion Henderson. He's running like 12 to 15 carries. I'm keeping him fresh for Michigan.
Yeah, kind of like what Michigan's done with Corum. Corum only has 111 carries through 9 games.
Yeah,
it's like 11 carries a game.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know if they're doing that on purpose or what, but would you say Ohio State's worst defensive performance of the year?
It probably is, yes, because of the rushing. Yeah.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, they still had to play the game. Even saying that.
And they played extremely well in the red zone. They held them out of the end zone. And Wimsatt, he throws the ball fine between the hash marks, slants, drags, everything that he can see right in front of him. Everything he airmails or is off all over the place. If he's got to throw something to the sideline, to the boundary, he's like all over the place.
Oh, yeah, he airmails it. He 100% airmails it. And last thing I'll say is, are we in agreement that Kyle McCord just is what he is at this point? Like, I mean, he makes some good throws, but he's just not an elite quarterback.
He's 2015 Jay Coker. Let's say that.
I know why you're saying that because they wanted to chip, but I know why you're saying that. Yeah, maybe, man. It's just weird to see, man. Like every game outside of Purdue and Youngstown State is a tightly contested 3-quarter game. Now you could win all your games like that. If you could win 15 games like that, win 15 games like that. But it's kind of fascinating to watch looking the past couple years and looking at this year. It's like two totally different teams. I don't even recognize them. But last couple of years, it's blow them out early and that's it. And then this year, it's like completely switched. Which side of the ball is the better side, and the style's a lot different. And it seems like it's a pull away late kind of team. So
I don't know that it's going to land like this because Washington continues to win, and so does Florida State. But I kind of want to see Ohio State and Michigan both in the playoff again.
You think that could happen? You need some teams to lose though. You definitely need some teams to lose. You need Michigan, and Michigan has to win next week, obviously, for that to happen. Well,
yeah, no, they can beat Ohio State and take care of it themselves. But for both of them to get in,
you know what's wild about that though? Who's winning the three-way tie right now?
I posted a video last week going through the tiebreakers, but it changes every week because it's all dependent on their Western Division teams and who.
So what if Penn State wins that three-way tie? They win the Big Ten.
Yeah, they could.
Then what can you still get two teams in?
I don't have a whole lot of confidence in that right now, the way they played against Ohio State and the way they haven't played against those two teams the last couple of years. I got to see them beat one of those two teams once.
Well, here's what I'll say about that, man. I think since that Ohio State game, Drew Aller has played a lot better, and they're playing at home versus Michigan.
Yeah,
he's taking more chances. He's actually running the ball a little bit more. And don't get me wrong, he's not the most athletic guy, but he's not the same quarterback he was when he went to Ohio State. People got to realize he was a young quarterback, first road test of his career. Sometimes it takes a game like that to kind of, pick yourself up by the bootstrap, so to speak. So we'll see, man. We'll see. And before I go, I'll just say I hope this team can handle the pressure of the outside noise, because every day, I mean, I can't imagine what the players in the locker room, right? Players in the locker room, it's probably tough to deal with every other day.
Yeah,
probably new story breaking. It's a lot of pressure, man. It's a lot of pressure. So I hope the team can handle it for 3 more weeks, and I hope it doesn't get to them. That's all I'll say about that.
I agree. I don't envy them, and I don't. I feel bad for them because it's not their deal. It's not under their control, and they should just be able to play without hearing that crap.
100%. They're young. Yeah. They're young kids. They're not, stuff like that affects young people. So we'll see.
Absolutely. All right, man. Appreciate the call. I did say like 3-minute calls, didn't I? And then I forgot about it. All right, let's keep going here at the Voice of College Football. We got our buddy Mike here.
How do I follow that up?
I'm sure you will follow it up just fine.
Like I say, Go Blue kind of just echoed a lot of the stuff I was thinking about with Michigan. I didn't like the fact that we gave up 13. I know there was a play that was less than 20 seconds left, but I just did not like it.
What's it matter?
It's perspective. I don't like the optics of it. I mean, Purdue is probably the worst team. Well, besides Michigan State and, I guess East Carolina. I mean, I don't really count them. This is probably the second worst team in the Big Ten. For them to get 13, that's embarrassing. I know it's a garbage time.
Embarrassing?
Yes, it's embarrassing. Michigan made too many mistakes.
It's not embarrassing. Now, I can't tell you what embarrasses you. That's not my place to tell you, but I'm just telling you, for the team and the players, they should not be embarrassed with beating Purdue 41-13. Because for one thing, the touchdown didn't matter. It was completely meaningless unless you had money on the game. It was completely meaningless.
No, I didn't have money on the game. I don't like betting Michigan. It's burned me in the past. And another thing is, I'm feeling more confident now against the Ohio State game than ever before, because all I heard a month ago was, we play nobody. Rutgers is nobody. Rutgers is not good. So Ohio State was losing at the half.
Who did you hear this from?
Look at all these Ohio State fans.
Mike, you have to realize who you're hearing things from. If you hear from people that know what they're talking about, now I always said that's a decent win. They're a decent team. Now, you also have to understand that regardless of if you're talking to the whoever you consider to be the best expert in college football, each week provides us with more insight and information, and Rutgers continues to look better and better. So none of us thought as much of Rutgers weeks ago than we do now.
Well, I mean, I'll give you that. A lot of these Ohio State fans in here don't know what they're talking about, so I will spot you that one.
Yeah.
But I mean, all I've seen, was, when we talked about how we played Rutgers and we won by 24, their comment was, you were only up 7 points at the half. They weren't that good. And now, so I'm just going to flip it back on them. Apparently Rutgers isn't that good because Ohio State fanboys in there have decreed it. So it's embarrassing for Ohio State fans to be down at the half to a team that's not that good. Especially since Wimsatt pretty much threw that game. I mean, it was basically the only thing he could throw in that game.
And he didn't against Michigan?
No, their one score was on a pass play. Now it was like a 5-yard out route. They just, secondary blew it. But
well, he threw like a slant down the middle that the dude raced 60 some yards for a touchdown. But I'm talking about when it was still a game, he threw the play was blown up, so it wasn't his fault from that standpoint. He had to do something with it, but it was a 4th down, and he threw a pick that was not a good decision. Well, he had to do something. It was 4th and 2, but that ended the game right there.
Yeah.
To take one game and make a narrative out of it for either team in comparison. So they've both played Purdue and Rutgers. They have 2 comps that we can make. And I would say, in my estimation, that Ohio State looked slightly better against Purdue. And I'd say that Michigan looked considerably better against Rutgers.
We did both play Indiana. You want me to refresh on those numbers? I can refresh on those numbers if you'd like.
Yeah. Well, then you also have to take it into context. That was Kyle McCord's first start of his career. That's pretty significant. That's hugely significant. We can also go back to 2018, and if you looked at every team that Ohio State and Michigan played them better. And then when they both played, Ohio State
I
off
know
the
that
field.
one.
So that's how much that meant.
Yeah, well, say we were kind of playing with fool's gold with Don Brown.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm just saying, comparing how Michigan played that season against everybody that they both played. I remember doing a video. I lined up all the numbers. This is what they did against Nebraska. This is what they both did against Maryland. And it wasn't even close. It was close with like one opponent. And then the rest of them, Michigan outplayed, and then they played.
Well, I mean, the summation of the 2018 was basically one sentence. Michigan couldn't defend the inside slant. That inside slant just slaughtered us, and they couldn't adapt. 62 points worth. Maybe I will say that we did look better before that game, but basically they found one nugget of gold and they just kept double downing on that gold, and that was it. I mean, I just can't stand hypocrisy. I mean, I see too many people just kind of writing off Rutgers, a game, we won comfortably 24 points, and people just writing off as, it was nothing, they're crap, that's not a real measuring stick. So. And
you don't see hypocrisy out of your own fan base.
Oh yeah. But I also call them out on it too.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of Michigan fans that say some really dumb crap in here. I want to turn a blind eye and ear to it, but man, it gets hard.
Well, off the football field, I've seen a lot of crap in both directions. I've seen a lot of crap from Michigan fans about this scandal, and I've seen a lot of crap from Ohio State fans and other fans that are taking these accusations to nth degrees that have not been proven or we're nowhere near there at this point.
But another thing, I think a lot of people are, kind of hyping up the Bama game. Jaden Daniels didn't finish that game, so I think it might have been a little bit different if Jaden Daniels was able to play 4 quarters.
Maybe it was definitely swinging Bama's way.
Yeah,
when they knocked him out of the game.
It was still a ball game.
Yeah, it was still a ball game. Yeah.
And man, I was just mesmerized by the USC Washington game. Whew, that was a game you did not fall asleep watching.
Yeah, those kind of games tend to not interest me too much. Oh, I get a bit bored by guys just running down the field. I just tend to think when I watch a game like that and see some of those, I think they're not winning a national championship and they're not winning a national championship. They're really not that. I think there's a lot of talent on that field, but man, after what I saw, I have the same evaluation. I just don't think that those two teams are serious contenders. Well, of course, USC's not at this point, but I mean, even if they were given a chance in the playoff, I don't think either one of them can play championship football. Well, they're really good football teams, really talented. Absolutely.
I think the main problem with Washington is they're just not balanced. They have absolutely no run game to speak of.
Did you watch tonight's game
against USC? Okay, and
I know a lot, for like 350 yards.
Yeah.
USC, they ran for more than they passed for.
Yep. Travion Henderson can run for 250 yards on USC's defense. Grinch is just all sorts of terrible.
You don't think Washington has a run game?
I think what they get like 18 yards against Arizona State at home.
What did Michigan rush for tonight? Like
a little over 100, I think.
Okay.
I think Blake was like a little bit less than 120. I'd have to check, but we didn't really run all that great. I thought Michigan made too many mistakes. And I think going for it and that one play, that was terrible. And we still have some special teams things to work on too. I mean, every team has their warts, Michigan included.
Okay, Mike, anything else?
No, that's all. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Let's keep moving, folks. We've got a couple super chats to get to. Uncle Rico. I feel bad for the players they cheated against. Weird how no one mentions them. Good point, sir. So the Michigan players themselves. So I can understand. First of all, let's assume that the players had no idea this was going on. Okay. And I think we have to make that assumption to start. Okay. And so then under those circumstances, I feel bad for them. The Michigan players. Let's say the Michigan players did know. Then I would hope, for example, I raised my son in such a way that he'd be getting on the phone with me and saying, Dad, this is what's going on here. And then I'd have to intervene and there'd be all sorts of hell to pay. And so my son, for example, I know him to be, even at that age, even if he was 20 years old, at that point, I know him well enough to know that he would have no issue confronting anyone, Jim Harbaugh included, to say, what the hell are you doing? You're a cheater. So under those circumstances, I would expect some players to be able to confront coaches. However, I do understand many of them don't have that kind of, although they're big, tough football players physically, most of them are probably not emotionally or mentally prepared to do that. Or ethically, some of them would be like, who cares? We're cheating. Yeah. So, and don't have the best upbringing. So I'm not going to blame a 20-year-old for not making the kind of decision that a 40-year-old should make from an ethical standpoint. Although we know 40-year-olds, 60-year-olds aren't necessarily ethical either. There's a lot of people that go through life and don't learn anything. But you make a great case there, Uncle Rico. The players that got cheated. Think about them. Good point, Uncle Rico. I don't think we've mentioned those guys. I think we've taken it upon ourselves as fans, and I'm including myself, even though I have not taken this stance, but many of you have, like, we got cheated as fans because I root for Penn State, or I root for Illinois, or I root for Ohio State, or whoever in the Big Ten. They cheated me. They cheated more than anyone, the other players and coaches. Thank you, Uncle Rico. We appreciate you bringing your perspective to the conversation because it makes a lot of sense. Okay, this should be a good one. Nick says, Mark, I usually like your analysis. I think we should probably stop reading right there. I usually like your analysis. Thanks, Nick, for the comment. We appreciate you. Oh, okay. But this is absurd. How dare you not have Michigan's helmet in the background? Offended is not a strong enough. God himself won't forgive such an evil deed. Shameful. All right, Nick. I truly hope I'm understanding that correctly. Wink, wink. Thank you. You know what? Yeah, I don't give this whole setup a whole lot of thought. Every so often I'll be like, okay, well, they played them and they played them. I'll match them up. But yeah, that is a whole random deal back there. But Nick, thank you so much for the comment. We appreciate your contribution. And I'm right there with you. Again, wink, wink. I hate when on Twitter, sometimes I have to like respond to somebody and just say sarcasm. Okay, you've gone on and on about this and we've gone back and forth. You're not picking up on the sarcasm. Okay. I made a decision a long, long time ago when texting became a thing. And if you're an old guy like me, this wasn't part of your life growing up. And then we started texting each other all the time, that I decided, okay, for women, okay, this may sound chauvinist, sexist, I don't care, whatever, that for women, because of how they are, they're different than men. I know I'm possibly in some kind of special category for actually acknowledging that men are different than women are different than men. That they like the hearts and the emojis and all that in the text messages, but I should never have to put an emoji in a text for a guy. They should be able to read between the lines, see the sarcasm, understand the punchline, all of that. But for the women, I'll put the little smiley face there. All right, Nick, thank you so much for that. Uncle Rico coming back. Are we including the cheating in these game comps? It's beautiful. This whole situation with Michigan, I generally don't like it. I don't watch all these YouTube channels, but I'm sure YouTube, of course, acts for you like it does for me. So every time I'm in YouTube, which is all the time because I got 15 YouTube channels, I'm getting all this stuff thrown in my face from whoever that produces videos and does live streams. And I often think I should be doing this all the time. If I was a better businessman, I'd be talking about Michigan all the time, and every little thread of real evidence, made up evidence, this that came out. But you know what? This is what I'm looking at right now that is important to me, and that's college football in terms of this channel. Watching college football, not talking about this mess. I want them to be brought to justice, whatever that is. Whether that's letting them off the hook because they really didn't do anything wrong, or whatever it is. We know that they did something wrong at this point. But I just want justice served. But But sometimes then I go through certain phases where I find it kind of amusing, kind of irritating. It depends on the day and the slant on the whole thing. All right, let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. Oh, we got PNW Ute to represent Michigan on your honor shelf. May I suggest stealing a sign? Yes. Good one there from our Ute fan, I believe. Jeffrey's here. Jeffrey, what's going on tonight?
Hey, Mark. What a weekend of college football, like always. But yeah, I have to say that you were spitting facts a minute ago. Everything you said was absolutely spot on. You know what I'm talking about. Not going to elaborate because of the chat, but yeah, that was funny. That's my favorite part about not being the first caller, because of the fact you have so much material that you can base off what other people said and then talk about it. It's great stuff. Can't wait to get into it as quickly as possible, because you said 3 minutes per person, but we're almost an hour in and I'm only the third caller. So that's out the door. But yeah, the one thing with NC State, when you talk about what Mike Fort said about comparing how you play versus teams, NC State is the perfect example, because Notre Dame beat NC State by a lot. Don't remember the exact score, but it was by a lot. What did Clemson do? They lost to NC State, but then Clemson beats Notre Dame. And there's other examples. I could 100 examples that I could go through with tons of other teams that and results that indicate the exact same thing. How you play versus an opponent versus how another team plays against an opponent means nothing. It never will mean anything. I think it's hilarious that people still use that logic. I mean, it's not horrible logic if you have like a million game results to go off of, like Indiana. Yes, Indiana's worse than Ohio State because they perform worse against this opponent than Ohio State did. Yeah, I would probably agree with that. But when you're comparing two really good teams, it doesn't work. But that just cracked me up. And then the other thing is, when you said I was going to come on here and say exactly what you said, Mark, about the gaps in the USC-Washington game being so wide. And then you said it, and I was like, man, I was going to say that because I'm watching this game. And I'm not saying I'm a football expert. I know football decently well, but the voice of college football knows more than I do. There's a lot of other people that know more than I do, but I'm trying. I know a decent amount about football, but watching football and seeing two defensive players be this far away on the field suggests that a player could run through that hole. I could run through that hole. Eventually, somebody's going to get me, and I'm going to be beat up, but I could run through that hole because it's wide. And I just don't understand why Alex Grinch thinks that works. I don't understand it. It's insane. I feel bad for Caleb Williams. He does everything. He tries hard. And then USC fans online are like, you got to play better. Caleb Williams, you got to do more. It's like, what more do you want him to do? Close your gaps on defense. Maybe you'd win the game.
They scored 42 points. That should be good enough.
100%. And when you talk about social media, I reference social media all the time when I'm saying like people saying, because it's always on the internet. But you mentioned a long forgotten time of no internet, and no social media. So much better. I never experienced that. I had a little childhood time when there's no iPhone. About 5 years. And even little kids today, like, I don't know, life without the iPhone or the Samsung Galaxy or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I was about 4 years old and I was watching regular television, and we still had like the flip phones and everything. So it makes me feel old. I'm not old, but it's like you're making me feel old with all this tech. But I know this isn't talking about football, and I got to get through some of these games. That's just some of the random stuff I wanted to get through. But definitely, I've already mentioned Indiana. And a lot of people were wondering, would the hat return? The hat is returning. Indiana, they won. They beat Wisconsin for the first time at home since 2002. That's abysmal. I mean, that is absolutely abysmal. Since 2002, Jerry DiNardo indeed beat Wisconsin, and Tom Allen did it at home. Now, they won in 2020 on the road, but first time at home since 2002. And I know Tanner Mordecai was out. I know Braylon Allen Chesmalusi was out. But Indiana, they can win a football game.
I saw that line on the game, and I thought, man, is something up? Am I getting baited here on this? Because Wisconsin's only a 2-point favorite against Indiana. But I thought, well, and I did not know that Braylon Allen. I knew that he was shaken up last week, but I didn't know that he didn't play in the game today. But yeah, congratulations to Indiana. They're not quitting.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I appreciate it. It's so funny too because they're 3-6, and they have Illinois, Michigan State, and Purdue left, and slim chance. But if they win those games and go 6-6, the greatest comeback of all time. Nah, that's not true. But it would be insane because you already said Oklahoma State's the greatest turnaround, whatever. But for Indiana standards to be left for dead at 2-6 and make it bowl game, it'd be wild. I doubt it. I think they'll slip up. But still, that was a good win, even if Wisconsin was not healthy. But yeah, I thought that they played all right. The defense was enough to get the win. But yeah, I had to bring the Indiana hat back to represent the family. Got Alabama. And I know that a lot of people are saying Jaden Daniels getting injured is why they lost. No, Alabama, like you said, Mark, was already starting to win. They were winning. They were starting to turn, the game on their favor, and they were going to win. I think even with Jaden Daniels. I mean, obviously we don't know for sure. Maybe some crazy thing happens with Jaden Daniels. He, scores a couple times, but I think Alabama would have won anyway. Do I think Alabama's going to make the playoff? It's not guaranteed right now, because they still have a couple tricky road games, and obviously Georgia in the SEC championship game, presumably. But Alabama is clearly a decent football team for Alabama standards. They're not bad. They haven't fallen off a cliff. Like you said, again, me and you agree on a lot. And I know that, everybody's got differences, but this is why when I listened to you for 2 years before I called in the first, I'm like, this guy is awesome, because I agree with everything that he's saying. Because Jalen Milroe, you got to use him better. Our Alabama fans, even in my family, were like, Jalen Milroe's terrible. He's never going to be good. And I'm like, look at him now. You're all saying he's great. And I told you from the beginning he's being not utilized correctly. And finally, he's being utilized correctly. It just cracks me up, because even people that have watched football longer than me for 40, 50 years, even though some of them are just casually what they watch, but it's like you can't tell that a guy that can run the football, standing in the pocket 99% of the time, is not going to be the most ideal way for him to succeed. It just cracks me up. But we'll see with Alabama. I don't know. Like I said, they're going to make the playoff, but that was cool. And then the last hat, a lot of people like the oversized Carolina hat. They got an oversized win today over nobody against Campbell. They took care of business, but yeah, that ends the trio of hats for today. I don't know. I wanted to do that, but my teams went 3-0. The three teams I like the most, even though I usually try to be as unbiased as possible, they won. But yeah, to circle back real quick, because I know, again, you got tons of people to try to go through this real quick. To circle back, the Clemson game, though, frustrated me, because you said, Mark, you picked Clemson. And I wanted to pick them so bad. You said you picked them 4 times this year in all their losses, and so did I. I finally deviated from it, and I picked Notre Dame. I went Will's way. I went Notre Dame, and they let me down. Clemson, I don't pick you for the first time this season, and what do? You win, and I knew it. The sad thing is I knew they were going to do it, and I still didn't pick them to win.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that I was fully confident in it. I went into the game thinking, and I even made the statement, I think, this week, that I thought Notre Dame was a better team slightly. But when push came to shove, I pulled the trigger with Clemson in that game. Mm-hmm. And when it gets back to Jalen Milroe, part of that has to do, for me, with my confidence in Nick Saban. Mm-hmm. And people say that he's not as good as he used to be and all of that. And I'm not saying that he is at his very pinnacle coaching peak, like he hasn't lost anything. Maybe he has. Maybe he's the 3rd best coach in America,
like that's bad.
He knows what he's doing. And it's almost like when he named Bryce Young, without Bryce Young throwing a meaningful pass, he threw like 5 passes his freshman season, and then he redshirted. And then he starts as a redshirt freshman, and the entire offseason, Nick Saban, there was no competition. Bryce Young's the starter, and I remember sending out a top 10 quarterbacks post that year, and I named Bryce Young like the 2nd best quarterback in the country, and people were like, "What? He's never played."
I think I remember that one.
Well,
that video.
You'll see, because I cannot believe that Nick Saban is going to have no quarterback competition if he doesn't believe that this guy is that good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. I mean, I think it's just funny overall with a lot of takes, people make. And I've made bad takes before too.
Sure.
But I mean, like Washington-USC, I mean, looking at both of these, I'm happy for Penix. Obviously, he was at Indiana, so I'm rooting for him at Washington. I hope he has tons of success, even if he goes to the pros and has even more success. But Washington's not a championship team. They don't have as good of a defense as I thought. I thought their defense was all right, but they're not getting it done. And then you mentioned Florida State as well. A lot of teams that just don't give you championship vibes. It still looks like Georgia, possibly Michigan, Ohio State, maybe Bama if they can sneak back in. But that beside the point. A few more games really quick. Texas barely held on. I was shocked that, Kansas State, blew the game at the end. I thought they actually had it. I mean, I wasn't really shocked it was close, but just shocked they blew it. Because K-State's gotten big wins before. Like, usually it's against Oklahoma when they do. But they can win big games. And that makes Missouri look better, that Kansas State's actually good. But, yeah, I don't know. That Texas winning, I mean, Quinn Ewers being out right now, I don't even know his situation or whatever. But, yeah, they need a bit of help. I will say, too, that Washington State and Maryland have collapsed. Absolutely collapsed. They're like two of the biggest fallers in college football from the beginning of the season. You talk about Washington State when they beat Oregon State and they were on cloud 9, number 13 in the country. They fall apart. They're 4-5 right now. Just lost to Stanford. And then you talk about Maryland. They're still 5-4, but just abysmal football. I wish they had a play like that against Indiana. But yeah, it's interesting to see both those teams struggling. Ole Miss barely won against A&M. I know A&M's talent, but I thought Ole Miss would win by a bit more than that. But they didn't play too well. Oklahoma State won. I did take Oklahoma State. Did you, or did you go with the Sooners?
I took Oklahoma State to win.
Yes, yep. I took Oklahoma State. I went to Pokes. They pulled through. They got it done, so I was happy about that. Georgia won. Wasn't too shocked, but Missouri did play well, to your point. And I think one of the last things I wanted to mention, Louisville, I got to shout out Louisville for Austin. The Cardinals, I said that they weren't that great, and I know their schedule still hasn't been that hard, but they're looking good. They're not top 10, but they're good. They're a good team. I can say with all confidence that I was maybe a little too down on Louisville, that they weren't even top 20 or 25. They might be that good. They're pretty decent. So it was a good weekend of college football. Glad my teams had success, and I definitely can't wait to see what happens next week as we get closer and closer to the playoff. But we got to get Mark to 43,000. He's so close to 43,000 subs. That is not the ceiling. That's the floor. We got to go higher for sure. I know that's cliche, but I really do mean it. Mark is awesome, and he does a great job. Love watching. I'm very glad that I found your channel. I know that, again, that's cliche, but I'm just still, this community is awesome. It's just fantastic.
Well, Jeffrey, I always look forward to your call. Always a great take from you. Always a great conversation. Appreciate your enthusiasm. You love college football. You know college football. So we always have a great conversation and take from you. So thank you so much for your support. Everybody, check out Jeffrey's channel. What's the best way to find that?
My YouTube channel, Only Talk Sports, where I try to have as much enthusiasm I have with Mark, but definitely Mark always brings out the best of the enthusiasm I could have for college football. But on my YouTube channel, Only Talk Sports, and you can find me at Twitter as well at Only Talk Sports as well. I really appreciate that, Mark.
Absolutely. Jeffrey, have a good night. Call back again.
You too, and I definitely will. Can't wait for next week. Have a good one, Mark.
Colorado's finally scored a touchdown with about 12 minutes left in the game. It's still a game here, but they were stuck on 5 points, 23-12. I see that there was obviously a safety in that game. I love safeties. I'd love to see what happened there, so I'll have to go back and see how Colorado scored a safety. Sack in the end zone, holding in the end zone, maybe a punt snap through the end zone, whatever it is. Fresno State winning a big game against Boise State right now, 30-20 with only a minute left in the game. Looks like they're going to hang on. No. 9 minutes left in the game. Thank you very much. Arizona leading UCLA. I did pick the Wildcats to win that game against UCLA. We'll see if they hang on. I just flipped it on here in front of me. So we'll check that one out as well. Let's keep it moving here. We got Rob on the line.
Hey, what's up, Mark?
Not too much. How you doing?
Pretty good. Well, pretty good despite, what transpired down in Death Valley.
Yeah, it was a good ball game. It certainly was a situation for me where I watched it and thinks that Clemson made some good defensive stands in the red zone, especially inside the 5-yard line. Otherwise, if Notre Dame's not kicking field goals, and of course Hartman made a really bad play on the pick six that opened up the game and made a really bad throw on the second to last drive. So he didn't play his best.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the most odd season that I've seen in quite a while for Notre Dame, and I think I want to apologize to like Sam Hartman personally. Like if I ever got to meet him, I'd be like, "Hey man, you should have stayed at Wake Forest, or you should, or something else." Like this is where quarterbacks go to die. Like this university just cannot get it right. We cannot get like good quarterback play. Jared Parker needs to go. I'm sorry. Demote him, whatever you got to do. If you don't want to fire him, maybe put him back on the tight end coach, exclusively. But the offense is not working. It's been horrible. I called into the show a few episodes ago before the Pitt game, and I was bringing up my concerns about going into that Pitt game because Pitt had a decent defense. I mean, at least statistically in some ways, and I was like, yeah, Notre Dame's offense is terrible. Like they're terrible. So I thought that game might have been closer than it was. Of course, Notre Dame ended up blowing Pitt out. A lot of that was because of the defense. This isn't really a team as much as it is a defensive unit that plays really, really good 90% of the time. They had probably one of their worst performances of the year today, but they still didn't play terribly. Like they played good enough where Notre Dame could have won. I mean, 31 points is not insurmountable. It's just when you have an offense as bad as Notre Dame's has been, especially these last 5 games, really ever since the Ohio State game. After that game, Notre Dame's offense has just been miserable. And it's not just the wide receivers. I mean, they haven't been good, but they've also been riddled with injuries. So you might want to look into the strength and conditioning program there, or at least Chancey Stuckey, the wide receivers coach. Something that's going on there. Just too many injuries. Now we lost Mitchell Evans with a career, or not career, but a season-ending injury there. He wasn't in the game. And then you thought, well, Will Shipley's not playing either for Clemson, so that's kind of tit for tat. Not it's somewhat tit for tat, but no, Clemson. Neither team was fun to watch offensively. This was a miserable game if you're a fan of offense. But yeah, I just kind of had a bad feeling about this game going into it. I thought Notre Dame would win. Silly me, but just looking at the matchup on paper, you say, well, Notre Dame has a pretty good offensive line. They've got a really good running game when they're on. Audric Estime is one of the better running backs in the nation, and he had a good game tonight. That was one bright spot. And of course, Notre Dame's defense has been great. But I knew their offense was trash overall. Their offensive unit overall is just really bad. And Clemson's got a good defense. Like Clemson has a really good defense. A lot of people don't realize that. Like this Clemson team is not what their record shows. I mean, yes, they are, but that's a better team than what their record is. I mean, they almost beat Florida State. This game reminded me, you know what this game reminded me of? This game reminded me of last year's Notre Dame Clemson game, just flipped. Like Clemson was coming in with the hype. Notre Dame was on the downslide, and then Notre Dame wins and kind of surprises everyone. That's what this game was, just the opposite.
Although it was a better game. I understand your narrative going into the game, but this was a much better game than last year's game.
Yeah. I mean, last year's game was, I don't know. I mean, as a Notre Dame fan, I can't agree with that.
Well, of course, for you, but I'm talking about this was a better game.
Right. No, I see where you're coming from, but it's just...
It was still in doubt with 2 minutes left in the game.
Right. I would say, and honestly, Clemson did everything they could to give Notre Dame the win.
Yeah.
They really were trying to give, and Notre Dame's defense, they were big in the second half. They did everything they could to help this offense, and this offense just couldn't get anything going. Nothing. And the play calling, I mean, what did Audric Estime had like what almost 100 yards in the first half, and they decided just not to quit running them. Like I just don't understand. There's a lot of things I don't understand about this Notre Dame team. Sam Hartman has not been good, but it's not all his fault. He's hasn't had good targets to throw to for the most part. I mean, and it's again, there's a lot of fingers, there's a lot of blame to go around everywhere. But this was just a really frustrating season for Notre Dame. I mean, they lost their playoff chance, they lost their championship chance, now they lost their New Year's Six chance. All they have now is to just try to salvage. And I don't want to see Sam Hartman. I know they're probably going to play him because he committed and they want to be loyal to him. But it's like I want to see Steve Angeli come out or Kenny Minchie and see what they like. Give them some game reps. Maybe play Hartman for like a half in the next couple games and sit him and give these young guys some game experience. I mean, heck, Angeli came in at the end of the game last week and got about a third of the yardage that Hartman had for the entire game and threw a touchdown, which Hartman failed to do against Pitt. So yeah, Hartman's just been pretty bad, and again, it's not all his fault, but he's definitely not playing up to his potential. But a lot of that has to do with just the offensive scheme around him and the wide receivers either being not great or just being hurt or some combination thereof.
Well, they've got a strange schedule in that they've got a bye week left, right? They're 7-3.
Right.
So that means they've got a bye week, and they've got Stanford, of course. That's the one team that comes to mind that they haven't played that they always play. Who's their other game against?
Wake Forest. And
Okay.
wouldn't it be hilarious? Wouldn't it be hilarious if Notre Dame lost to Wake Forest? I actually want to see that. As a Notre Dame fan, I want to
You
see
want to
Notre
see
Dame.
it?
Yes, I want to see Notre Dame lose to Wake Forest because that is the ultimate Notre Dame thing to happen. For Sam Hartman to come from Wake Forest to go to Notre Dame and then for Notre Dame to lose to Wake Forest. I would actually laugh if that happened.
Well, I got to say they shouldn't lose to Wake Forest, but it's college football. And once you take the incentive out of a season, we get all sorts of odd results in November. So that could happen. Absolutely. And Stanford's playing better.
Right. Yeah. I'm Notre Dame. People are like, oh, well, at least, Notre Dame's going to win no, there's no guarantee Notre Dame's going to beat Stanford or Wake Forest. I mean, should they? Yes. Will they? Who knows? Who knows the way they've been playing? And I'll say this, Notre Dame on the road this year has been abysmal. Abysmal. That's the problem. Like, I mean, they lost at home to Ohio State, but they played a good game, a competitive game. They had the lead going into the final minutes there. They just kind of horrible play calling. I'm not one of these people that say, oh, 11 men. Who cares? Like, even if they had 11 men on that goal line stand, Ohio State's still scoring that touchdown. What you screwed up was the clock management before that and the play calling before that. The 11 men thing is blown out. Like, should Marcus Freeman had 11 guys? Sure, but that wasn't going to matter. There's no part of me that thinks Ohio State's not scoring that touchdown at that moment, with or without 11 men. But yeah, on the road, Notre Dame's just been awful. I mean, just slow starts, getting handled. They look like a totally different team on the road this year versus at home. It's unbelievable. It's like Marcus Freeman can't get his guys for some reason to play well on the road. And what's frustrating is a lot of Notre Dame fans, right? They want to take shots at Brian Kelly. They hate Brian Kelly. Oh, he left us. He's a blah, blah. Like, look, Brian Kelly had 5 straight 10-plus win seasons before he left. He left Marcus Freeman with the keys to a really good program. And Marcus Freeman is going to struggle to get to 10 wins this year if he does. And that's going to take a bowl game win to get there at this point. So I just think that people need to kind of, if you got a good coach, enjoy it while you can. That's all I got to say. And I'm not saying Marcus Freeman's not going to blossom into a good coach. I'm not saying he's a bad coach right now. But what I am saying is the personnel that he's got around him are not adding up. Notre Dame is underachieving right now, based on what was left to Marcus Freeman, and based on the talent that they have on that team. They should not be losing to. And no offense to Louisville fans, but yeah, we shouldn't have lost that game. And honestly, we shouldn't have lost the Clemson game. But hey, that's college football. That happens. Congrats to Clemson and Louisville, by the way. I will be rooting for Louisville. And I don't know about Clemson, but I'll be rooting for Louisville. And I got nothing against Clemson, but this one hurt. So anyways, Mark, I know you got a lot of callers, and I'm over 3 minutes. Just wanted to rant and pile on my own team there for a minute to get some frustration out. So, hey, for all you Notre Dame all you Notre Dame haters, this must have been a cathartic or an enjoyable call. So, anyways, good college football tonight. Lots of good games. But yeah, thanks for having me on it as always, Mark.
Thanks, Rob. We appreciate you being here as always.
Yep, no problem.
All right, let's keep it moving here. The Voice of College Football reported earlier in the day, about 12 hours ago, is that Jim Harbaugh would be suspended at some point, whether that be by Michigan or the Big Ten. I read the 247 Sports story. This was like 12 hours ago, and I can't even tell you who would have been initiating that suspension, whether that was going to be the school or the Big Ten. However, I've just looked it up and just followed up to see if some of the things that are being mentioned in the chat in regards to a suspension coming down for sure. We shall see. So keep me up to date on that one. Certainly, as we take our call, before we take our next call, let's catch up on these super chats. We've got Nick on the line. Nick says, interesting how people only want to go back to 2021 when Michigan started winning, even though Connor Stallions is on video talking to Don Brown on the sideline before 2020 in 2018 and 2019. Well, if I'm following your line of thinking, Nick, people only care about cheating if the cheaters actually win. If the cheaters lose, then what does that really matter? Okay, let's deduct 25 points from all the Michigan games in 2018 and 19 and say instead of losing to Ohio State by 23 points and 29 points, they would have lost by 50 and 55 points. I'm not understanding your line of thinking here because they had good teams those years. They didn't have excellent teams. They didn't win championships. They were losing games. 2018, 10-3, 2019, 9-4. But they lost the meaningful games to the good teams. So maybe they were cheating. It just wasn't enough. So that understand that's a possibility that, any one of us in any sports or competition or anything could cheat and it could still not be enough. That doesn't condone the cheating. And then if at some point we become either better cheaters or we become better at the competition, plus we're still cheating, and that's enough to turn the result, that doesn't mean that the previous cheating was justified in some way. Am I missing in some way what you're saying here? Okay. Georgia Reloads here. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Do you think 26 consecutive wins is a sign of a good team? Depending on who they're playing. Obviously, Georgia's won 26 consecutive games. Yes, they're a good team. Again, we appreciate the super chat. I don't know what your point is. Who's saying that Georgia is not a good team? All right. Sean, there's my favorite super chat of the night. Create a bunch of dummy accounts to get marked to 43,000. Well, Sean, for as much as I would love people to do that, on one hand, we don't want to artificially game the system. We actually want 100,000 subscribers regardless. We want a legitimate 100,000 subscribers. So we'll get there. Thank you for the sentiment, Sean. I do appreciate that. But no dummy accounts, folks. We're good. Just tell people about us. Do that. That would be the way to get us more and more subscribers. All right, let's keep it moving here. We got the real MVP on the line here at the Voice of College Football.
Hey, Mark, how you doing this evening?
I am doing well, DeReal. How are you?
I'm doing much better than last week. Kentucky finally won a game in Starkville. Hallelujah, Mark. It's been since 2008. And Kentucky dominated the game from start to finish, 24-3. Mississippi State's terrible, Mark.
Sounds like it. I was going to say, as soon as I saw your name in the chat, I thought, oh, I know Kentucky and Mississippi State were playing on the SEC network tonight, but I don't even know what happened. So now we know, and we'll go to the box score here. Devin Leary, 156 passing, 2 touchdowns. Ray Davis, 21 carries, 80 yards. Tavion Robinson, 5 catches for 91.
That is all good and stuff, but there is a larger concern.
Okay.
and that is Devin Leary's health. He didn't play the entire game. He got dinged up in the fourth quarter, and I'm very worried about that because if you know who Kentucky plays next week, Mark, Kentucky needs all the help they can get. So,
yeah, and who's the backup quarterback?
he's on the screen. He's that Sharon,
here we
I
go.
think's his name. I honestly don't even know who he is. I never heard of him until he took the field, but he was okay. But I don't think
Sharon or Sharon.
Sharon.
Sharon? Okay.
Sharon's probably right. He doesn't have what it takes. You can just tell he needs another year in the system. He's a backup quarterback for a reason. He's not that good, Mark. I mean, he played meaningless reps, but Mississippi State's defense isn't that good either. I think
brings you up to 6-3, right? You're bowl eligible.
Yeah, 8th straight year in a row, Mark.
Wow.
We're bowl eligible. I'm very excited for that. I never thought this would be the case where Kentucky 8 straight years would be bowl eligible. I didn't even think they could make a bowl. They had some weird streak of long streak of 7 or 8 years in a row where they didn't make the bowl game. I think them and Colorado at one point were the longest teams without a bowl appearance at one point in time.
And for any folks that are in the chat right now chuckling at this, I love this because I want the Kentuckys of the world to do well. And I think that Mark Stoops lifting this program from what they were to what they are now is a really good thing. And it's a thing to be admired. I would like to see them continue to ascend. I don't know what that's going to take. I know we had that conversation recently.
You're right. That was after the Tennessee game where I thought they played pretty well, but still lost to a, average Tennessee team?
Yeah, top 20 team, 25.
And well, how many of them are going to be in the SEC going forward?
The whole conference outside of Vandy and Mississippi State, maybe.
Right. That's my concern. Is Kentucky could be a top 40 team, but could be 2-7 or 2-6 in conference play, Mark. I mean, look at South Carolina, for example, Mark. They beat 7-2 Jacksonville State today, Mark. They won the Battle of the Gamecocks.
Yep.
And they're 3-6 now. But you look at their schedule, they could be one of the 60 or 50 best teams in the country, but their schedule just doesn't allow them to do anything good. Because they got to play.
They are. Again,
Right.
These group of 5 results come in, and it just... I watched the highlights of the Tulane Eastern Carolina game, and when I see them win 13-10 against East Carolina, who's completely awful, and I think that Tulane's arguably the best group of 5 team, it just and that's not an aberration. This has been going on for years, where teams like Cincinnati have struggled against group of 5 teams, but we're supposed to rank them because they're undefeated or they've got one loss against a bunch of nobodies. South Carolina, if they win in the American Conference, they would be the champion.
Well, I didn't mean just in group of 5. I meant in terms of Power 5 as well. I think they're better than some of the bottom feeders out there. I think they're better than your Indianas, for example.
Sure they are.
Or your Arizona States. But it's not going to show up in their record. Or Stanford. It's not going to show up in their record, and they're going to have as bad as a record because they got to play Clemson, Georgia, Texas A&M. They got to play all these great teams every year.
Yeah, Tennessee, Missouri. Yep.
Yeah, and that's where I'm concerned with Kentucky. But hey, you got to enjoy the wins while they come. Mark, any chance on this planet, even if it's a very small chance, Kentucky could make a close game against Alabama.
I looked at that game early in the year, and I thought that was going to be an interesting game, but I expected Kentucky to be battling Tennessee as the second best team in the East. I thought they were going to be more in the 9-3. I don't know where I picked them, either 8-4 or 9-3. I don't think it's going to be an embarrassment because I don't think Bama's playing games like that. I just don't think that this team plays like that. So it might be 31-14, but it's not going to be anything embarrassing. Didn't they beat you guys 63-3 a few years ago?
Yeah, them, Florida, a bunch of teams did it felt like in 2020.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, I hope not. But Mark, there's no moral victories in the SEC, so I won't be satisfied unless they win. So, because a loss by 1 or a loss by 30 is still an L, Mark. So, what you going to do about it? And with that being said, Mark, I've got to ask you, any worries about Ohio State? I know they struggled for a half against Rutgers. Are you what concerned that if they play Michigan and struggle for a half, they're going to get too far behind and won't be able to make up the deficit? Because I don't think Ohio State's capable of coming back from 14 or 17 points down against an elite team this year.
Well, sure, you don't want to get down against anybody that good by 2 or 3 touchdowns, and they're less equipped to do that. I would not give up hope. If you told me that they were down to Michigan 24-10 at half, that's not a good place to be. But I personally would not give up hope. But you're talking to a fan, and I do think that they're a really good team, and I think they're one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the country. But Michigan does look better than Ohio State right now. I will fully admit that. And they're getting better. They're getting better. So Mike Ford made the comment a few callers ago that he's more confident winning this game as a Michigan fan than he was a few weeks ago. I'm more confident that Ohio State's going to win this game than I was a few weeks ago. They're getting better in the areas that I want to see them get better, and that's running the football. Travion Henderson is a better back than I gave him credit for.
Okay. That'll be interesting topic of conversation in a few weeks.
Yeah. We're only 3 weeks away from that ball game. It should be something else. Yep.
It should be. In the Colorado-Oregon State game, Oregon State went for 2 because they were up 15. They fumbled, or they were trying to, they were up 17 they were going for 2. Anyway, that's the point. And they fumbled. Colorado got the ball and ran it back for 2.
Oh, that's how they got the 2. Okay.
I can't remember the exact scenario clearly, but
that's how they got points, and Colorado got the 2 points instead.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Texas, Kansas State. What did you think about the call for Kansas State to go for it on 4th and goal? They had a chip shot field goal to make it into double overtime, but they decided to go for the win.
Didn't like it. Did not like it. I get the whole point. If you are Cal, for example, last weekend against USC, and your coach thinks you're not as good as USC and you got to steal a win, so you go for broke thinking, okay, they're better, and if you keep playing, most likely you're not going to keep up with them, even though they were clearly keeping up with USC. So I get that approach, but Kansas State is nearly as good as Texas. It's not like they're inferior in some. Are they as good as Texas, as talented? But they clearly can play a game with Texas. I don't like doing those sorts of things. I think you conventionally, unless I know that they missed a chip shot field goal, but then that same kicker kicked a long field goal near the end of the game. So it looked like they blew the game. This is the only portion of the game I saw. I saw the last 2 minutes where it looked like they blew the game with about 1:45 on the clock by missing like a 22-yard field goal. But then they had enough timeouts to stop Texas, get the ball back, hit a couple passes, boom, and then kick a long field goal at the gun to go to overtime. So I don't know how good their kicker is, but let's say he's a fairly upper echelon kicker and he's 80+% certainty from that range. I kick the field goal. Absolutely.
Okay, another game I want to talk about is Louisville, Virginia Tech. One of the most consequential games in terms of championship race. Louisville absolutely beat the soul out of Virginia Tech, Mark. Louisville, it seems like, has got a great to potentially elite defense. I mean, they're in the driver's seat now. They just, based on the math I'm seeing, all they got to do is win one of their next 2 ACC games to make the ACC championship game alongside Florida State, who clinched a spot today. Any chance Louisville could upset Florida State in the ACC championship game?
Yes, absolutely. Florida State is no super team. They're a good team. They're no super team. And Louisville showed us against Notre Dame in particular that they can be a complete football team. I don't think their quarterback, Jack Plummer, is anything special, but Jeff Brom really knows what he's doing on offense. And sure, they've got a 30% chance of winning that game.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think there's not an SEC bias or a Big Ten bias, as like fans like to say. I think there's a big brand bias in the sport. And what I mean by that is Texas, Oklahoma is going to get the benefit of the doubt, unlike your Missouris and your Louisvilles. But I think Louisville and Missouri played better today than Texas and Oklahoma. But I don't think that's going to be reflected in the rankings, Mark.
And I said that. I must have said that when we were going through the scores when we first came on. I was going through the top 25 scores and giving my thoughts. And yes, I expect certainly the AP rankings to reflect this. I don't know how the committee is going to take this Georgia-Missouri game. But Missouri, if anything, today, more so than any of their wins, they confirmed that they're a good team today in losing. Their ranking should go up. That's my opinion on that situation. I don't know if I'm speaking to what you're talking about, but yeah, we, there was really nothing on Oklahoma's side other than that win against Texas for us to believe that Oklahoma was some super team, and they struggled mightily against the UCF team that was losing left and right to everyone in the Big 12. And then the Cincinnati win wasn't anything special. And then, of course, they lose to Kansas. But before that game, everyone was just slotting Oklahoma and Texas. They're going to play a rematch in the Big 12 championship game. Well, let's hang on here. We're really close to neither of those teams being in position to go to that game right now. We were a Kansas State play away from them and Oklahoma State being in control of that conference.
Completely agree with that, Mark. I actually think I disagree with Only Talk Sports. I think Louisville should be in the top 10 in the country. I think they've played like a top 10 team in the country, and it wouldn't shock me at all at the end of the year if they're 11-1 or 10-2. And the final thing I'll talk about, Mark, is Texas A&M losing another game. At best, they're going 8-4. What do you do?
If Texas loses another game?
Texas A&M.
Oh, Texas A&M and loses another game and goes 8-4.
No, they are going 8-4. They have 4 losses.
If they win the rest of their game, they're 5-4. Yeah.
So what do you do? Yeah.
I went on a big rant about this at the beginning of the show, and I said that I would be talking to every oil tycoon in Texas. Jimbo Fisher needs to go. It's just, this is not working. It's not happening. He's never going to win there. They're not beating Ole Miss and Arkansas and Mississippi State on a regular basis. I know that they beat one of them this year. I'm not saying that, but they're not beating those teams on a regular basis. They haven't even approached beating Alabama on a fairly regular basis, or when they see Georgia, which, to their benefit, they never have to do. They lost to Tennessee a couple weeks ago. Not a great Tennessee team, as you noted earlier in the conversation. It's not working. He's not a good coach anymore at that level. He's not that good of a coach. I don't know how you go 8-4 and 7-5 for 7 years, making more than anyone practically in the sport, and justify your position.
I completely agree with you, Mark. That's all I got for you this evening. Fight on to the bowl-eligible Boston College.
Good stuff. The real MVP, citing what we missed is, of course, on Friday night, Boston College, who we've all made fun of here because they barely beat Holy Cross. They lost to Northern Illinois the bottom portion of the ACC, and when I say the bottom portion, I'm not talking about like 2 teams. I'm talking about like 6 teams suck. So I'm not vouching for Boston College's wins, but they suck less than the other crappy teams at the bottom of the ACC. So they are able to beat a team like Syracuse last night, 17-10, to become bowl eligible. This is the Dave Doran NC State foolproof way of getting to a bowl game. You don't play anybody in the non-conference season, so you win those games, and then you go 2-6 in the ACC, and you go 6-6, or you go 3-5 in the ACC, and then you win your non-conference games, and you finish 7-5, and you go to a bowl game, and everything seems fine, and everybody thinks you're doing a good job. But for Jeff Hafley and Boston College to bounce back to 6-3 at this point is monumental for them. I don't know who they've got the rest of the season. I know that they've got Virginia Tech coming up, and they always play Pitt at the end. No. I'm mixing that up. That's Syracuse and Pitt. So anyway, I don't know who they're playing. Probably some other bad ACC teams. They've got Miami coming up at home as well. Think Smarters, Ticket Smarter. I always screw that up because I've got Think Smarter at the beginning of the banner there. Ticket Smarter, mobile app or ticketsmarter.com. Jump on there if you want to go to a game. Promo code is BIG, BIG, or BIG20 for either $10 or $20 off, depending on your order size. BIG is the promo code. So if you're looking to go to a ball game to get yourself in the stadium at the best possible rate, go to ticketsmarter.com. Use our promo code BIG or BIG20. Michael Hoag's on the line. Michael, what is going on with you tonight?
Just frustrated marking yourself.
I am less frustrated than you, I guess.
Oh, my God, man. I don't know, man. I feel bad for the defense time, man. Yeah, it was a blowout win, but they played a lot better and stuff like that. Just wish the offense would have showed up. Not saying they would have won, but I think it might have been a closer game if the offense shows up.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that it would have been a closer game if the offense was better.
Yeah, but hey, we'll see what happens next year. I wanted to get the reason why I was trying to get hoping I could get back in touch with you the other night when he was on is I gotta ask you. You thought Purdue's schedule was brutal. Have you seen their schedule for next year?
Well, everybody's schedule's tougher next year.
No,
everyone.
Purdue's is a lot tougher.
Everyone's is tougher.
Yeah.
Now, some teams, it's just slightly tougher. You're telling me Purdue's is much tougher. And that's the deal with most Western Division teams, because think about this. You play everybody in the West. That's 6 other teams.
Right.
You're only going to play either 3 or 4 teams out of the West, and you're going to replace those 3 games with probably 2 teams from the Pac-12 and 1 team from the Big Ten East. So everybody in the West is playing a substantially tougher schedule. Yeah. Absolutely.
Here's their non-conference schedule. They got Indiana State, Oregon State, and Notre Dame.
Oh, I noticed that. Oregon State and Notre Dame. What is Purdue doing? I love, if only maybe somebody like Michigan would schedule like Purdue.
Yeah.
Notre Dame and Oregon State. Good for you.
And then in the 4-week stretch, Purdue plays Ohio State, Penn State, Northwestern, and Oregon.
Wow. Yeah, that's rough.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, like this season, I know you don't really follow Purdue much, but I got to go back to the state 2019 is like this season when Purdue was snake bit, man.
I don't follow Purdue? Huh?
Well, okay.
Yes, I'm not a Purdue insider, but I would say through the years, I follow Purdue about as much as anyone on the national scene does.
Yeah, I mean, between Purdue and Ohio State, you're going to follow Ohio State 99.9% of the time. Am I all right?
Sure, of course.
But no, what I'm saying is back in 2019, Purdue ended up finishing 4-8 because they were snake bit with injuries and stuff, just like they are this year and stuff. So, I mean, it's the first year regime and stuff. So, but I want to get your take about what you thought about Ryan Walters' comments too, what he said this week. If you did get a chance to go back and look at it.
Yeah, well, I can't remember exactly what he said. I read it and I referenced it. If you check out my Michigan-Purdue video after the game, I referenced what he said, and I thought I didn't reference specifically what he said, but I do remember reading it 3 or 4 days ago. I thought he was very classy, professional, but still blunt and direct to let everyone know that this is not acceptable and that they were going to deal with it the best that they could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not bad. No, congrats. Even though I'm not a Ohio State fan, it was nice to see Travion Henderson finally play again today.
Well, he's been playing most of the season.
Well, I thought he was out for a few weeks, though.
He was out for a few weeks. You're right.
Yeah, but no. Congrats to IU for the win. I think Bobby Knight was looking over the football team today.
Okay.
That's how they win. But no, I don't know if you had any time you spent with Bobby Knight when he was doing it and stuff like that. But
I've got a good Bobby Knight story. Do you want to hear my Bobby Knight story?
Sure.
So let's see. This was my first job in television. I was a news anchor reporter as just a young kid there at in Ashland, Ohio, at WNCO. And Bobby Knight was speaking at, oh, shoot, I don't remember what high school. Let's say it was Shelby High School, I believe. So he was speaking at the local high school or one of the local high schools. So I headed out there to record Bobby Knight speaking at the high school. And, you know, I'm about halfway back in the auditorium. The place is packed with people. And I've got my tripod and my camera set up. You know, this is a zillion years ago, like 1992. And Bobby Knight is talking about what it takes to be an Indiana basketball player and how disciplined you have to be and how focused and how locked in and dedicated you need to be to Indiana basketball. And out of nowhere, he's just talking. You know, there's how many hundreds of people there, and all of a sudden he shoots like a finger at me, like not the middle, but he like, and I'm like way back, but he goes, "You young man." And then he started giving me all these orders like, stand up straight, do this, do this, do this. And he's just da 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 da. And so I'm following along with the act, and I'm doing it. And then he gets done, and I do all this and salute or whatever he asked me to do or told me to do, commanded me to do. And then he said, "You could play basketball at Indiana."
Okay.
That was my one interaction with Bobby Knight. I don't remember ever otherwise being close to Bobby Knight for anything else because I didn't
able to ask a question during the press conference, though?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Did you ever get to ask him a question during a press conference, though?
No, because I was never covering Indiana basketball or in a tournament experience where he was or his teams were involved.
No, I mean while he was there at that press conference or wherever he was speaking, or was it just like in speaking engagement?
He was just there to speak to the local high school.
Yep. My one story about Bobby Knight is I was back in high school and I got an assignment and stuff like that because we was doing some stuff. And I actually got to cover an IU game. And I asked him a question. He said of all the years, and I'm sure he's being, or all the questions I've heard this season, that was the best question I've asked. And it was about an issue and stuff like that with Keith Smart and Steve Alford. But anyway, I got to ask one last thing before I let you go because I pretty much went over the 3-minute limit. How would you rank the games today as far as 1 to 5 the best games? Because there were some damn good games today.
Okay, well, I didn't see all of them, but off the top of my head, I would go. Oh my goodness, top 5. See, I didn't see all of them, but based on the Oklahoma State might have been the number 1 game of the day.
Okay.
Again, I didn't see all the games.
Okay, can I modify the game that you did watch today then?
So the games that I watched,
yes.
I think the best played game that I watched was Alabama and LSU.
Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why aren't they putting QB spies on Milroe and Daniels for?
Why did they not?
Yes.
That's a good question. They both ran for 150 yards.
Mm-hmm.
But LSU and Bama would be the best game that I saw today. The second best game would be Ole Miss and Texas A&M. The third best game would be Clemson and Notre Dame. I can't really say I saw Oklahoma State because I just saw like the last couple, maybe 7 or 8 minutes, but it looked like one of the best games of the day. I can only watch so many games. Texas-Kansas State looks like it was a great game. Washington-USC, I'm guessing that most people would name that as the best game of the day.
If you like offense.
That kind of game doesn't excite me, doesn't do much for me.
What
All I do is about throw up looking at defenses that suck.
What would you put
they're that bad? If that game's more like 38-35 because we've got good defense, but we also have offense that is so precision, so executing so well, like watching an NFL game, like watching Aaron Rodgers on one side and Pat Mahomes on the other side, and the defenses are really good, but those two guys are so good and throwing the ball through such tight windows that they're going to score points. That's not the byproduct of this. Yes, Penix and Caleb Williams are that good, but most of these dudes are just wide open, blown coverages. Nobody can tackle. That is not interesting to me.
Where would you put Georgia, Missouri?
Well, I just saw the second half. I put that rather high as well. I probably saw less of the competitive part of that game.
Yeah, not bad.
There were a lot of good games. Like you say, there were a lot of good games.
All right. It looks like Arizona's getting ready to go get their 6th win and become eligible. Whoever thought that and did. Okay, Jeff Brom, Jed Fisher. You have a vote for Coach of the Year. Who do you go for?
That's a great. They would be 2 of the top candidates, along with Eli Drinkwitz, off the top of my head. Greg Schiano. I'm going to say Jed Fish.
As much as I love Jeff Brom, I got to go with you. But if I can split my vote.
What?
As much as I love Jeff Brom,
yes,
I got to go with Jed Fish.
Yeah, he's played a tougher schedule. This is a brutal schedule that they play, and they're doing extremely well.
Yeah.
They should be in the top 25.
Or who knows? Maybe they'll be in yours tomorrow.
Yes, they better make it, or Mark doesn't know what he's doing. If they don't put if this top 25 that actually makes sense doesn't have Arizona, I got to find a place for Arizona because they're one of the 25 best teams in America after what they've done the last 5 or 6 weeks.
What's more likely to happen? Purdue, Colorado, who neither of them wins another game the rest of the year. They each win another game the rest of, at least just one game the rest of the year, or they both make the Mark Rogers bottom 10 list next week.
Well, the bottom 10 is not the 10 worst teams in the country. It's just a kind of like fun look at who's not doing so well and failing and some quirky. It's a quirky list. That's not the 10 worst teams in the country.
I would consider Purdue's offense being in there and stuff like that. But seriously, who do you think is more likely to win another game before the end of the year, Colorado or Purdue?
Well, I don't know their schedules off the top of my head, but I think Colorado's got a tougher schedule. Purdue's got Indiana, and
they got Minnesota, Northwestern, and IU.
Oh, Purdue's got a much better chance of winning a game.
I bet. Oh, and Schiano, your Big Ten Coach of the Year?
Yes.
Sounds good. All right, sir. Sorry for taking
You're good.
7 minutes more than I should have. All right. Have a good one.
Appreciate you, Michael.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Yep. Boiler.
Boiler up indeed. They covered the spread tonight, so Purdue fans be proud of that. All right. Anything else we've missed here? No. Okay, let's keep it moving. Jonathan's on the line. Welcome to the Voice of College Football.
How you doing, Mark?
I'm good, Jonathan. How are you?
Right, I'm all right. A little frustrated as a Buckeyes fan. Do you feel like Ryan Day just doesn't trust? Like he doesn't want to take the training wheels off of our quarterback?
Well, he knows what kind of team he has, so he's trusting the defense and believes that this is the best route to victory. But yeah, I would like to see. Trying to think what game that was a couple weeks ago, where they had
Purdue?
plenty of time to move the ball downfield in the first
Oh.
half, at the end of the first half, and they didn't. I don't like that. Now, if they're sitting at the
Was that
8-yard line,
Maryland?
yeah, I believe it was the Maryland
Okay.
game. If they get the ball back and they're at the 10-yard line and there's 13 seconds left, sure, pack it in. But 3 timeouts, 45 seconds at your own 30. Yeah, you got to be able to take advantage of those kind of situations.
Yeah, I just feel like he's just, I don't know. I don't know who's calling it's Day still calling the plays. I know Hartline has his input on it, but
yeah,
it's still Day.
Sure,
I would like to see what Hartline does. Hopefully next year he'll turn it over. I just feel like it's a lot of dump downs. And I will say one thing about McCord is if his first read is Marvin Harrison, which I'm not saying is always a bad thing, but he's throwing it to Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, he is.
He doesn't come off of Marvin Harrison. He'll stare until he just feels like, all right, I can just throw it to him, which is not always a bad thing. But when defenses better defenses like Michigan pick that up, Rutgers did a pretty good job shutting them down today.
Yeah.
Outside of those 2 touchdowns. But another thing I wanted to talk about, did Lincoln Riley have control who his coordinators were going to be?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Do you think that maybe Lincoln Riley just is not that great of a coach?
Yes. I think that's a possibility. I'm not saying that
I'm not just saying as a disrespect thing. It just seems like he can't win the big games. He always controls who his staff is, and yet he always gets it wrong.
It depends what you consider to be the big games. I don't know. I always have to ask that question when people start talking about big games. He won Big 12 championships, so he had to win big games to win the Big 12 championship.
Right, but in the Big 12, right, when he was a head coach in the Big 12, I can't remember. I mean, I follow the Big 12, but not a whole lot. I can't remember a good defense in the years that Lincoln Riley was there.
No.
But I think we could agree that Utah has a pretty good defense, and he's 0-3. Notre Dame had a pretty good defense going into that game, and he lost to them. But I agree with the points is not the issue. The offense isn't the issue. It's the defense. But at some point, he's got to be held accountable because it was his say who he brought over. Is this the second year that who's our defensive coordinator?
Alex Grinch.
Is this the second year he's been there?
Yeah, he brought him from Oklahoma.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. But let's also understand that at the same time, Texas A&M's working on a 7th season of Jimbo Fisher.
Right.
Well, and Lincoln Riley took over a terrible football program.
Yeah.
They had some talent.
Touch on Jimbo, too. That contract is probably the worst contract that I can think of. Would you say that's the worst coach contract in NCAA football history? In college football history?
Well, the Mel Tucker contract was pretty bad, too.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
He was making almost as much money as Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah.
I've done nothing.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. I do got to say this real quick. When you were doing what is the ticket thing that's called again?
Oh, Ticket Smarter.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment in the chat and say maybe Michigan could use that discount code. Sorry,
I know. If only I had a connection with Connor Stallions, I could have made a few dimes, and he would have saved some money on and I could have been connected to the Michigan, and I would have been investigated and asked questions by the FBI and the NCAA.
Yeah, well, I put the status up whenever they fired him. I'll be honest, I did say he should file a lawsuit against Michigan. He's only doing what he was told to do. So,
well.
I wanted to ask you about Texas because I did watch that game today, and sorry, my brain's been foggy all day. I can't remember the name of the quarterback that played for Texas today.
Malik Murphy.
Malik Murphy. I knew it was Malik something. Do you think that with better, he did have a couple turnovers. Do you think that with taking care of the ball better, Texas could kind of have that Cardell Jones Ohio State run? Or do you think
Sure.
the defense isn't good enough?
Oh, I think they could. Yeah, I think they could. I think they've got to play a lot better, but then again, they've got time to improve. They've got
Yeah.
3 more regular season games and a Big 12 championship game, and they're going to be a heavy favorite in all those games. And yeah, there is a Cardell Jones comparison there. Yeah, he's a big dude.
Yeah, he is a big dude. Well, I was watching that game, and I'm like, well, he just turned the ball over, but hey, we're going to go out there like, hey, kid, you're still going to whip this ball around the field. And I'm just like, man, Kyle McCord's got a pretty strong arm. Why can't Ryan Day do that? Because it does seem like once he threw that pick that they went really conservative. I don't know if it's because they wanted to feature Travion, which, I mean, he kind of put Michigan on alert, like, hey, I'm here too.
I just think he's doing it because he doesn't have to. If they're running the ball well and their defense is giving up next to nothing, they're giving up like 10 points a game.
Yeah. But on the bad side, though, it's like the one caller did say about, like, if they do run into like a bustle like Michigan where like they're down, Michigan comes out and punches us in the mouth real quick. And Kyle McCord don't have much experience where, hey, we got to rely on you. I know we kind of did in the Notre Dame game that last drive, but like, do you think it's that would be? Do you think it's beneficial to play like he does in case we run into that and he's not prepared for that moment? To have to put the game on his shoulders?
The more Kyle McCord can experience both as just having reps throwing the ball against good teams in different situations, the better he should be able to then process all that and lock it away and just be better and quicker with his decision making and all that. But yeah, he's never been in a situation. So he responded well in his first situation on the road, hostile environment, not counting Indiana, hostile environment, and you're down 14-10 with 90 seconds left in the game, and you've got to go 75 yards for a touchdown. He obviously responded. Now, being at Michigan down 31-17 in the fourth quarter is going to be different than that, because it's going to be you're throwing the ball every play, almost every play, for the next 3 drives, because we need touchdowns and you've got to carry the offense. Sure, he's not had to face that, but
right. Well, what I'm looking at, like this week we play Michigan State. I think they're god awful.
Yeah.
Why not just go out there and let them sling the ball around? Just
okay. So by doing that, I'm not saying that that's not valuable, because
I'm not saying just throw the ball every play. Sure. I'm just saying, like,
you're addressing
more downfield shots.
Sure, you're addressing the first thing that I talked about, just getting him more and more reps against teams. But that's not going to address the second one. When you talk about, like, if they're down by 2 or 3 scores, well, you can't manufacture that unless you want your team to go out there and give up 3 straight touchdowns at Michigan State just to prove a point and say, Kyle McCord, you're down 21-0. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. So, I don't know. I agree with what you're saying, because I said the same thing about J.J. McCarthy last year, that they weren't letting him open it up and throw it enough and all that, because they knew what they had in the running game, but it still all worked out.
And I'm also worried about it because, like, we lost Mayan Williams for the year already. We're down to Chip Trainum and Travion. I don't know who's behind those two.
Dallin Hayden. I'd rather see him run the ball than train him. That's for sure.
Train him, yeah. Train him doesn't seem to have great vision. He just, I do like him though, because he just puts his head down and runs.
Yeah.
But I'm a little worried, like, because Travion got a pretty good amount of work today, and he comes off an injury. If he goes down, maybe take him out a little more than they did. Understandably, they needed him today. I don't know what I think Rutgers deserves more credit than what they're getting. And if they're in the SEC, they'd be talked about. But nobody can sit there and say, like Paul Feinbaum made the sly joke about, oh, well, who the Buckeyes got to play this week? Rutgers? Come on now. And he said something I wanted to ask you. He brought up, I don't know if you've seen this on national TV. He said that James Franklin and Marcus Freeman were two of the most overrated coaches in college football. Do you agree with that? He said it on First Take.
Well, anytime somebody says somebody's underrated or overrated, I have to try to figure out according to who. Like who's rating and ranking James Franklin to be so great that he's overrated.
Right. I just think well, he's an SEC guy, you know that. So
yeah, he's an SEC guy who has and there's certain ways in which I respect Paul Feinbaum because I think he's good at what he does. He really has a show where he basically just shuts up and lets people he just takes call after call after call and just sits there and really answers nobody's questions. If you really listen to him, which I haven't this year, but I get into grooves watching things. And then if I get out of that groove, I forget about it. So I haven't watched in the last 1 or 2 football seasons, but there was about 3 years in a row where just because I was in a groove of working and having him on at the same time, I was listening to him and he never answers anybody's questions. Like if somebody asks him football questions, he never has a good answer. Like if somebody calls in and says, how do you think Texas A&M's defense is going to do about against Tennessee this week? He just gives the most generic answer and says something like, "Oh, they'll probably give it a good shot this week," and A&M's, and then he'll kind of spin it off into something that's kind of like a big picture, kind of like, well, Jimbo's got to get it together. He's not going to keep his job. And then that's his answer because he really doesn't. He's a newspaper guy and he's become a radio guy, now a TV guy, and he really doesn't know that much about football.
I asked my dad the other day, I was like, who do you think's the bigger Buckeye hater, Paul Feinbaum or Mark May? And he just he couldn't, every time Mark May would come on the TV or start talking, my dad would mute the TV.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But that's pretty much all I had. I had one more question and I can't remember what it was. Oh, it was about Rutgers. Or not Rutgers, sorry. When the Pac-12 teams come over to the Big Ten next year, do you think that the way people look at the difference between the SEC as a whole and the Big Ten as a whole, the gap will kind of close there?
Oh, absolutely.
And I did see Michigan's schedule next year, like their conference schedule. That's brutal.
It is.
That's brutal. Well, luckily Michael Penix is leaving and Bo Nix is leaving. So Caleb's leaving. So they're catching USC, sure. Oregon, Washington at the perfect time.
Yeah.
So
it seems like they are. Yeah.
So, and I seen someone in the chat said that Ohio State's got Bama in 27 and 28. For some reason, I was thinking it was 25 and 26 or something like that. Do you know when it is?
I don't remember off the top of my head. It's obviously easy to find.
Yeah, I know we got Texas coming up in the next couple of years too. Yeah. So, but that's all I had.
Cool. Thanks, Jonathan.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Yeah. Once again, if you're looking to go to a ball game, go to Ticket Smarter. Go to the app, download the app, or ticketsmarter.com. Best pricing and most secure secondary market platform that you're going to find. Promo code BIG or BIG20. So you get 10 off on the BIG promo code or 20 off BIG20. Appreciate the super chat coming in from Ryan. Thank you so much for that. Ryan's got nothing to say, but we appreciate you chiming in today. And thank you so much for your contribution. There we go. Ryan says, Ohio State fans giving Rutgers love today. Yeah. And so I'm guessing Ryan is either a Michigan fan or is some other fan who is noting that, yes, some people were saying Rutgers is no good. And then if they're an Ohio State fan, Rutgers is suddenly good. Every fan base does it. So I cannot come up with any more examples. I will just throw them at you as we go and have conversations. And as things come up and championships are won and games are played, to throw it back in everybody's face to just basically prove the point and confirm the point all the time that fans are biased. We're all biased. I try to eliminate it. Do I eliminate all of it? No, it's impossible. No one does. If anyone tells you out there that they're completely unbiased, they're lying, or they don't understand themselves. So they need to go to some kind of counselor. So they either don't understand themselves or they're lying. Everybody's biased. I do my best. I probably remove 98% of my bias. But yes, it's so ridiculously obvious to me. This Michigan scandal, this is the most obvious thing. All the Michigan fans say that Michigan should be let off the hook. This is no big deal, We would have won these games anyway. We didn't need to cheat. Yeah, shut up. And then all the Michigan haters, the fans of the other fan bases, take them to the guillotine. This is awful. And then they stretch out all these things that we don't know out to be the most ridiculous and horrible things ever, which they may come to pass and be true. We don't know. Innocent until proven guilty. We do know that this clown was on the Michigan staff doing all the things to, against the rules, scout and steal signs. So we know at least that happened. The whole point of this, the whole connection that means everything in terms of this being super, super severe and this being slap on the wrist material is going to be Jim Harbaugh's knowledge of it. If he initiated it, knew about it, took the information, used the information, all that, and that can be proven, that ratchets up this severity through the roof. If that can't be proven or it's disproven, then it's still lack of institutional control and needs to be dealt with. That is the whole key to all of this. Maybe we'll do another big Michigan scandal live stream here in the next couple of days because people love talking about it. All right, we got Sean Garner on the line. Sean, what's going on, man?
Mark, I don't know why Ohio State is using Dallin Hayden as their premier back. He's clearly the best back they have on the team, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, after what I've seen out of Travion Henderson the last few weeks, I don't know if it's clear cut, but he's always been my guy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean I don't know. I mean, like the way he's shown up the past couple weeks right now. I mean, I thought this all of last year. The reports in the offseason detailing the severity of the injuries he was dealing with last year confirmed it for me. I thought in 2021 he was one of the 2 or 3 best backs in the country, and I mean, I think he's like legit special. I really do. I mean, like you don't have to look at the box scores or anything. Just watch what he does on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Like that that little swing pass that he took like 70 yards.
Yeah.
Where he evaded the defenders, tiptoed down the sidelines, cut back across the middle of the field, and
yeah.
I mean, who can do that? Like how
and
many
did that from almost a stop? He wasn't on the move when he caught he was just like squared up catching the football, and then he took off.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's just like you can watch something like that and realize like that's a special guy. Like that's just you can't replace that with anybody. I mean, he's had over 200 yards of a total offense the last couple weeks, and he's given this offense a completely different dimension that they didn't have.
although I made the comment to somebody earlier, I would like so he showed me a level of toughness today and in recent weeks that I've never seen before. Like he's looking for contact, like he's like driving at people, he's lowering his shoulder. Like
and he's sure he's
there
230 pounds, right?
Yeah. So now I would rather see him run the ball more like 12 times the next 2 weeks.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like against Michigan State, Minnesota,
take it easy.
Don't overuse him. Like,
no.
I mean, especially against MSU, like you should be able to sort of air it out. Their secondary is terrible. You can, but no. So I mean, this was I thought the best weekend of the year. I thought this most of the good games lived up to the billing. Even the Alabama-LSU game that didn't go like crazy intense down to the wire, I thought was good play. Like I thought it was interesting for 3 1/4 quarters or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is November football, and it's getting real here. Like there's real stakes on the line.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Yeah, and I don't know. The Washington-USC game. You I caught wind of your earlier conversations. You don't really like when teams just like light up the scoreboard. Is that
not when there are 2 crappy defenses out there? It does nothing for me to watch guys run through lanes that you could drive a truck through, or watch guys blow coverages because they can't hang with their guy, or they just misread it and blow the coverage, or guys can't tackle. That just like that doesn't do much for me. It's okay. Like that game going into the day, I was thinking, oh, well, that's going to be a game I really want to see. But as it turned out, I was much more interested in watching Alabama and LSU play.
Oh, interesting. So LSU doesn't really play great defense either. Like they
don't.
No, I mean, like they're at the level of USC almost. What? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Not this year. They don't. No, they don't.
No, my bet. I bet a lot every week, and I normally leverage them across like 12, 14 bets.
Yeah.
I chose 2 this week.
Okay.
Can you guess which ones they were? They had nothing to do with the point spreads.
Wait, you bet the money line on 2 games?
No.
Then what did you bet? You didn't bet the point spread?
I didn't bet the point spread or the money lines. I bet the over-unders on I bet the over on the USC Washington game and the under on the Iowa Northwestern.
Oh, bingo. Good for you.
I mean, like that's free money right there. Like they can't set those lines high or low enough.
Yeah, that's funny. You nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that game was never going to reach 30. Iowa Northwestern was never going to reach 32 points, like ever. I mean, right? And
that was a good call.
Yeah. So no, it was so yeah, I mean, it's my best weekend of the year because I just like those were gimme lines right there. I mean, like, God, this USC defense and why were you at the point with this with some of these programs that have access to elite talent like USC and LSU? How can you ever produce products this bad on one side of the football? Is it?
Well, USC inherited horrendous defense.
I know, but they've had
Hilton. So Riley's only so responsible for this. He's had 2 years to fix it. And Helton had one recruiting class that was inexplicably horrible, ranked like 60th, but his other classes were high. So I think a lot of this is coaching and lack of development, because they've had several additions in the transfer portal that were supposed to be huge upgrades.
And I mean, like USC got a great addition from the transfer portal and Bear Alexander. He's lived up to the hype, right? Like he's been a terrific.
Mason Cobb's a good player. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, still, in spite of that, you can't produce a competent and okay defense.
No, they're not.
I mean, it's just, it's a joke. And I mean, I've seen some memes going around on social media, like mocking Caleb Williams. And I heard a couple radio hosts here say, like, it looks like he's quit. Like, did you watch him? Have you watched him at all this year? Caleb Williams does not quit on this team.
No.
I mean, Caleb Williams is super invested in the success of this team. And I mean, it's just a shame that the program around him has failed him. That, that this, I mean, it won't matter in the long run, because he'll be successful. He's gonna go into the draft. I'm sure he'll have a good pro career because he's that talented and he's that driven.
And it also depends on, when you say the program has failed him, it depends on what the goal is. If the goal is to prepare him for the NFL, I don't know if it's failed him. If it's to win championships, then yes, it's failed him.
But I mean, like he had a really good game tonight, and I don't know, like, if you at the end of the game, like, his family is like covering his face when he's with his family, because he's probably like inconsolable. He's probably crying. And I mean, it's just like he really cares about the success of this team. He does. I mean, it's been obvious the whole time. I mean, he played on one leg last year in the Pac-12 championship game.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are narratives around these kids, these 19, 20, 21-year-old kids made by older, jealous people, that I think is just disgraceful. It's just shameful. A lot of them. So, all right, Mark. That's all I have for you tonight.
All right, Sean. Appreciate you being here.
Take care.
Have a good night.
Appreciate you.
It's our guy, Sean, Buckeyes fan. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. We've got Nick on the line. Nick.
Mark.
How's it going?
How's it going?
I'm good.
I'm good too. Quick question. Have you talked to Isaiah Hull at all recently?
No. The last time I saw Isaiah Hull was at the Big Ten Media Days.
Didn't you have him on since then?
I don't think I've had him on the entire season. I think he's been on the Michigan show with our guy, John. I think. I don't keep complete tabs on that show each and every week anymore since I stopped hosting it. I've not had him on this year. I could look up my DM to see the last time I contacted him.
Well, I don't care about that. I was just curious if you've talked to him at all recently, like with you being interested in the whole scandal. Have you reached out to him or tried to talk to him or anything, or even thought about talking to him? Or
yes, I've thought about it. I can't tell you exactly why I haven't, but yeah, I know that he's. I heard the first few minutes of one of his podcasts, maybe right when this broke, I'm guessing.
Well, we don't need to talk about his show. I just want
no, that's okay. And I listened to some of it. I wasn't like taking notes to see what he was. Certainly much more invested in it than I am, for obvious reasons. But
well, not invest.
He had made a ton of phone calls and was doing a lot of digging. Yeah.
He's not invested because a lot of people assume he's a Michigan fan. He's actually not. He just has connections, which is his paycheck.
Yeah.
he's not a Michigan fan. So he's said that over and over again. I did want to ask you, though, I'm really curious about this. So overall, like, I know we know, like, whether you want to call it, well, we'll go with it, right? The scandal. You can't not say it's a scandal just because of the media and the truth behind it and everything, like the facts. Like, it is a big deal. No one can not admit that it's not a huge deal. I mean, this is a national. I mean, college football might as well be named, Michigan sign stealing, right? Do you think, or let me ask you this, what are your concerns about the effect of this whole thing? Whether it's being blown out of proportion or not, like presently, what are the effects of this on the rivalry between Ohio State and Michigan? Because I don't think a lot of people are considering that. And I think that this could be or have an effect that we see 10, 20. I think it could potentially have a permanent effect. And I'm concerned about that. I really am.
So when you say effect, effect on the rivalry, are you talking about the schools and the athletic programs themselves, or are you talking about amongst the fans?
Both.
Amongst the fans, regardless of what the result of the NCAA investigation, there's going to be a huge impact on fans because they interact on social media all the time. And if Michigan, similarly to what we see in the political world right now, if Michigan believes that they are being unjustly condemned and penalized, then they're going to have a backlash. I tweeted out something today that was only remotely connected to Michigan's situation, and I had a stream of people make all sorts of jokes about, oh, Ohio State, are they getting the signs today from against Rutgers? Just making a bunch of stupid comments because, yeah, people are emotional and people are attached and have allegiance to their team. And, sports is different than anything else because your success is connected directly to your rival or your competitor's failures. It's not like you're a salesperson and great, we're all succeeding. No, your Ohio State's no worse really than they've been for the last 15 years. They're just perceived to be worse because they've lost 2 games to Michigan. So Michigan fans are fine because they've won these 2 games against Ohio State. So there's a comparison mode. And then if these, again, regardless of what the outcome of the NCAA investigation, if they are shown to be tainted results, then Michigan fans are going to defend their school and their team and feel that angst against the system.
Yeah, but you're not stating a conclusion to it all. That's
conclusion.
That's kind of where I was going. Is if you're
I don't know what the conclusion's going to be. So I'm setting up 2 different conclusions. 2 basic conclusions would be that the penalties are harsh or that the penalties are light. Those are the 2 conclusions.
Regardless of the penalties, if you're an Ohio State fan and you care about that team, you're always going to, from here on out, point back to the rivalry changed, regardless of if a penalty is concluded, let's say at the end of the 2024-2025 season, well, they still gained an advantage even though they had a penalty. They were cheating, and that changed the dynamic in the rivalry. They're just cheaters. Like, Ohio State fans are always going to label Michigan winning as a result of cheating. That's not going to go away, though. That's never going to go away.
True. For some of them, yes.
And I think that's, first of all, obviously, I think that's illogical. I think anybody with their brain on in the right place would think that's illogical.
Well,
But
that's just as
that's
illogical as Michigan fans saying that it had no impact.
but no,
Right?
and what
Correct?
Michigan?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So do you want to hear what I have to say, or?
Of course. I'm just clarifying that while you're pinning that illogical stance on Ohio State fans, it's just as illogical as Michigan fans saying the cheating had no impact on anything.
Yes, I agree with that. But what Michigan fan is saying right now, and I've asked this since day one, I think there should be a punishment. But what Michigan fan has called up to your show or has said that there should not be a punishment? And
I don't know, 50.
Really?
Yes, I see it
Okay,
all over the
then
chat. I see it all over. I see it on
okay.
social media. I see it in this chat. I see it all over the place that they say this is stupid. This is ridiculous. This is nothing. Everybody cheats. Everybody does. I see all sorts of comments like that.
Mark.
Yes.
Who has said there should not be a punishment? That's my question.
All sorts of people.
Okay. Well, you should have if someone has said there should not be a punishment, that's ridiculous. But we've gone from that point to ridiculous extremes. And a lot of those ridiculous extremes have been a result of the way that this scandal has been covered by the media.
So give me an example of a ridiculous extreme.
A ridiculous extreme is vacating wins. We need to go back and the last 3 years of Michigan, all those wins need to be vacated. We need a 5-year postseason ban. We need this. We need that. I've seen it all over Ohio State reporters.
You're making a judgment. Then you're now standing in the place of judgment as to where that dividing line is, as we all are. So why is that too extreme?
I'm not standing in front of anything. I'm telling you what I've seen online with the media.
You've called those recommendations extreme. Therefore,
I think they are extreme because
then you're making a judgment about what's extreme, and that's okay. I'm not criticizing you. I'm saying everyone is making some level of judgment. They're either reserving judgment to say, like I am, to say I want to see all the results of the investigation, or they're making their judgment. So you, by saying that stuff's extreme, even though the investigation hasn't been completed, you have obviously come to a determination of what is a fair judgment and penalty. So what is that?
Yeah, but that's not uninformed, right? I've looked at what would be potential penalties, right? Based off of what the NCAA said. People let's be honest, people from the Ohio State side are talking about vacating wins, and they're trying to say or utilize the NCAA to take that action. When the NCAA itself, which is the vehicle for Ohio State fans to try to pursue that action, has stated that advanced scouting is a minimal competitive advantage. How does that rise to the nth degree of vacating wins?
Okay, I've got a response for you. If you're familiar, in 2010 and 11, Ohio State players received awards for games that were already played. This had nothing to do with games that were about to be played. They received awards for actually winning and accomplishing in a fair way championships, and they received awards. They traded those for tattoos. Okay. Mm-hmm. What does that have to do with any level of competition? It has nothing to do with the competitive balance. Nothing. We're just talking about trading trinkets. Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
What was the punishment for that? I'll tell you, vacated wins. And that had nothing to do with the competitive advantage on the field. Zero.
Okay, so when the NCAA made that decision, what was the statement from that organization that took that from you that said,
And take it from
that,
me.
well, no,
Yes,
I mean, if we're gonna
it
do
from
that, then
Ohio
I'll
State.
let you get on.
Yes.
If we're gonna do that, then I'll let you get on to other callers, because I think you know where I'm actually coming from. Where was okay? And let me state this, just for instance. Like, and I'm a Michigan fan. I think that whole thing was bogus. Ohio State got screwed. I get that. Like, I would, if I had a vote, if I could change that, that was complete bogus. Like, we can all admit the NCAA has been ridiculously inconsistent. It was unfair, completely unfair. But when that action happened, did the NCAA take that action and completely flip it 180 degrees and just go way beyond the pit? Like, they may have went 180 miles an hour farther from zero that you could ever go. But there was never a statement by the NCAA that said, that even indicated that we probably shouldn't do this. That wasn't there. And in this instance, it is. The NCAA came out and said that this rule, and again, I'm for punishment for Michigan, but the NCAA itself said that it does not give a significant competitive advantage. They said that.
How did they know?
No, exactly, Mark. That's my problem. You're saying, how did they know? I'm telling you, they don't know shit. They don't know. But how are Ohio State or anybody else in the country going to say, well, the NCAA now has the authority to go and vacate wins? It's ridiculous. The whole thing's ridiculous. Anyway.
They've always had the authority to vacate wins.
Well, yeah, okay.
Well,
you know what? You know what? Listen, guess what? They have the authority now. But I will tell you this. From what I know and from my experience, everybody's going out there and talking smack like, well, the NCAA can do what they want. It's not a court of law. Well, you know what Michigan's response can be? Let's take it to a court of law, and we'll see how it pans out. We'll see. Let's go. I'm fine with it. Michigan's probably going to fight it, because if people are being honest with themselves, Michigan did something wrong. But the way that this entire thing has transpired has not been the way it should have been if people were confident that Michigan did something wrong, and we need to figure out what the justified punishments should be. And if you disagree with that, fine. Say whatever you want. But we'll figure out how this plays. But I do want to ask you this, Mark, real quick. Do you have just to kind of we have our disagreements and all this. I get this. High temperature. Did you say that the company has or I don't want to say company, but like you've said that like YouTube chats, like YouTube gets a percentage of that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so but you have like a company Venmo?
Yes. So YouTube gets 30 to 35% of what people give. So it's,
Okay.
I have always, because of that, and I appreciate you bringing that up, Nick, is that I've always been hesitant one way or the other to say, hit me up on Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. I have, if you can read between the lines, said, that is one way to directly support to me without other filters involved. But then by doing that, I'm making it more difficult for people to support me and what we do here at the Voice of College Football, as opposed to just giving in the super chat, which I understand is much easier for people to do.
Okay. So I guess this is kind of unfair to put you on the spot here.
No, it's not.
Yeah, so let's make a bet, right?
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, what I'm really like, I mean, I love Michigan to my core, but at the end of the day, like I am really concerned about the result of this is going to hurt the rivalry, which I value more. Because I really do think this is going to end very ugly. Not to be the dark days, but let's make a bet. Can we come to an agreement on a bet where I don't know what's your normally people make wing bets. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have to agree on the bet, obviously.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. We can figure this out. So I don't know. Normally people make like, we'll make a $40 or $60 wing bet. Let's I'm trying to, even if we don't finish this out now, I mean, maybe you can get suggestions from the chat. Should we do a
make a bet? I still don't know what we're betting on.
Okay. Let's bet on if Michigan and Ohio State play this year, which do you think they will?
Yes, I'm about 98% confident they're going to play a game. Like, you think that there's actually a possibility that Michigan will not be playing?
Yes, absolutely.
Really?
Why couldn't you? You're insane if you don't believe that. Are you kidding me? The way that this has gone?
Oh,
I mean, you can call me insane.
Yes, they are going to play the rest of the regular season. Yes.
I mean, how much would you be willing to bet on that?
A pretty substantial amount of money.
Okay. All right. Well, we're getting somewhere. All right. Well, let's go to the result then. Because I remember, what was it? Michael Hogg? What was it? Michael Hogue?
Okay.
He called in and he said, I'm more confident about Michigan winning the game. And you said, well, because of Travion Henderson, I'm more confident of Ohio State winning the game. Okay, so maybe there's a thing there we can bet on. Which, by the way, Travion Henderson, 5-star recruit, shouldn't be shocked by his production. Not saying you are, but anybody else who has their head under a rock, doesn't matter. Let's make a bet.
I'm more intrigued on betting you that there's actually going to be a game played. I'll take that.
You want to make that bet? You want to make that bet?
Yes.
Okay. All right, yeah. Screw it.
So if we bet like $100, my bet is that there will be an Ohio State Michigan game played this year, and you're betting that there won't?
I will bet you, because it was okay. So we're talking variables. Well, let me ask you this: is Jim Harbaugh going to be on the sidelines for that game?
It doesn't look like it. Well, it looks like there could be some kind of suspension. That might be a game. I don't know. I'm not betting that because.
Wait, hold up, because you started. It just seems like a bunch of bumbling going on here. So you're
who?
From you.
I don't bumble about anything.
Okay, so is Jim Harbaugh going to be on the sidelines?
I'm not making predictions on people suspending somebody. I would be a moron to do that. I would be a complete idiot to make a prediction on whether Jim Harbaugh is going to be suspended and how long he's going to be suspended. Like, if somebody else wants to do that, fine. I'm not calling them an idiot, but I'm saying for me personally, why would I make a bet on whether Jim Harbaugh is going to be suspended and how long? I don't know what they're going to rule on that.
Okay, that's smart. I agree. I wouldn't do the same thing. So Mark, I'm on your side. I'm not your enemy. My goodness, sometimes. Jeez. I'm trying to be on your side here. So, but you did say, because of Travion's return, you're more confident in Ohio State
than I was a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I didn't say I was confident. I said I was more confident.
Okay, so who's gonna win if Travion's healthy?
Well, I always think Ohio State's going to win football games.
Okay, so let's do it. Why don't we just do a straight up Ohio State, Michigan win, regardless of what other variables? I don't care. I'll bet Michigan. You bet Ohio State. If you win, I will Venmo you or whatever. If I need to give you my information ahead of time, that's fine. Like, I ain't gonna cheap out on anything. What do you want to do? $100 bet straight up? Listen, how about this?
I haven't bet on a football game in like 7 or 8 years.
No,
and
listen.
I have no real interest in betting on a football game. And I know as soon as I say I'm not going to bet on this football game, there'll be all sorts of people going, he's not confident in Ohio State, blah, blah, blah. Well, I've been saying the entire season that Michigan looks like a better football team than Ohio State. So I think it's.
Hey, listen, Mark, I'll give you this.
And they're playing at home.
No, I get it, right? I get it. I will get 5 $10 super chats for free if Michigan wins this year against Ohio State. And if they don't, if Michigan does not beat Ohio State, I will Venmo you, or whatever form you want. I don't care. Whatever form you want. I will Venmo you $100. And if I don't, you can just ban me or whatever. I'm telling you I won't.
Yeah, I'm not banning anyone, and I'm not
No,
ban
but what you get what I'm saying though, right? So it's up to you. If you want to accept
you're looking to make a bet on Ohio State, Michigan, you can do that with all sorts of different people.
Okay, so you don't want okay. All right. So you're not confident.
Well, just a couple of minutes ago, like,
I mean, come on, man.
I make predictions on like 20 games a week, and I have various confidence levels of them. And like, why would I bet $100 on something that I'm just like 50-50 on? Why?
You don't even have to pay
just out of pride. I don't like. I think that's kind of stupid.
Okay. Well,
like I'm not the irrational dumb dude that are other places on YouTube that bet things just because, you know,
I was just trying to make it interesting
because they want to force.
I mean, if you're going to get offended,
I don't need anything artificial to make this game any more interesting for me. Like, I've never made a bet on this game in my life, even when Ohio State was 10 times better than Michigan. I just
okay, Mark.
Why would I start now?
Okay,
I've been watching this game
if
for
you're
like
gonna
40,
get that, if you're,
I've been watching this game for like 47 years. Why would I? Like, I'm not against betting on it. It's not like sacred to the point that it's not
Mark,
to be bet on. But
listen,
I don't believe I have, at least.
I'm sorry if I overstepped my bounds.
No, you didn't overstep your bounds.
You upset.
You didn't overstep your bounds or upset me in any such way. I'm just telling you, unless if I get into a betting situation and I think it's favorable for me, then I'm going to make a bet. But I'm not going to make a bet just for pride's sake.
Okay, well then tell me how it's favorable for you, because I gave.
Okay, give me Ohio State and 20 points. That's favorable for me.
Ohio State 20 points. What does that mean? Break that down.
You're going to give me a point spread of 20 points.
So
that would be favorable for me. That means Michigan needs to win the game by at least 21 points for you to win.
Okay, for how much money?
I don't know, $100.
Oh, come on. Are you serious?
Sure. Now, see, because we've changed the situation from me making some just emotional bet on pride to making a
stop it.
A measured, educated.
Let's here. We have Abraham Lincoln in the chat. Come on, are you serious? Don't act like I wasn't fair from the start. Come on.
Yeah, so where do we stand on that? I'm
Well,
sitting 2 o'clock in the morning. For what reason? Where are we here?
all right. I'll give you. What did you say? Ohio State within. This is his confidence in Ohio State. 20. I'll give you. Ohio State 10. $100. That's my last offer.
Yeah, we've got three weeks to revisit it.
All
I
right.
think
Well,
we can do better than that.
Okay, but you'll consider it?
Sure, I'll consider it.
All right. Appreciate it, Mark.
Thanks, Nick. Have a good night. All right. Yeah, see, I just, this doesn't interest me. Like, I got to be interested in doing things. I either have to be interested, like find it amusing or interesting or intriguing to do something like that, or I have to find it like financially beneficial to me. But I find it neither. So that would be like people have done this in the past. Nobody's done it this year, but people in the past have said, let's make a bet. And if Ohio State wins, then I'll have to do blah, blah, blah. And if Georgia wins, you're going to have to wear a Georgia jersey. No, I don't want to wear a Georgia jersey. So why would I bet that? Don't want to do that. All right. Now, somebody would say, if Rutgers wins, you got to wear a Rutgers jersey. If Ohio State wins, I'll give you $200. I'd say, well, then I have measured that as being a favorable business decision. So yes, I'll do that. There we go. All right. Very good. All right, folks, I think we have come to the end of the line. Appreciate you all being here at the Voice of College Football. Don't believe I've missed well, maybe I have at some point. Let's see. Anybody out there? Yes, I apologize for missing these. We will catch up with these right here because we've got Ryan a few times with the super chats. He says they're super easy. $1.99 is nothing. Thank you for that, Ryan. And by the way, Nick brings up a good point. So Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, they are in the description section of every video. Every video, description section, PayPal, Cash App, and Venmo. And as I stare at myself in the return, all I see over and over and over is that I can't wait to get my haircut tomorrow. And we got Hall of Fame City Gaming. College games exclusively on Peacock is BS, as was the Iowa Northwestern game, I believe, today. Hall of Fame City Gaming, thank you for the contribution. I generally agree with you. I think it should be all over the air and free to everyone. Although, basically, when it's on cable, you're paying for it. Michigan fans just need to cool down. Can't wait to talk to the youngsters about this in 20 years. Ryan. Oh, my goodness. And then we got Drew coming back with his word means as much as Jim Harbaugh's. And Jim says, Mark, God bless your patience. Yes. Some have said the patience of Job, but let's keep in mind, if you've ever read the story of Job, he went through quite a bit. It was like pretty brutal what he went through, but like people don't understand the context of all that. So keep this in mind, folks. You want a little biblical lesson here that although all that pain and toil and all that was brutal, none of us should have to go through that. People read that story and believe that like lasted his lifetime. No, it lasted like 9 months. Then he was rich and wealthy and had all these great things and blessings after that. So that was a very temporary trial. All right. We were just about to shut it down, and now David is insisting on talking here to us. So we'll put David in here. What's going on, sir?
Any truth to the fact that Connor Stallion's got a tell-all book coming out now that he's fired? What do you think, Mark? I mean, could you see like the 30 for 30 coming, or like the tell-all
Oh,
book,
the 30
or
for 30. Yes.
yeah.
I see that.
I'm just waiting for like the exclusive, like Tom Rinaldi interview where he like breaks down in tears and just confesses his true love and talks about what he did for the program and to help them out and how much he is just a stand-up guy and he fell on the sword and all that BS.
Well, the individual that I saw, so I took your advice and I checked out the Zach Smith show
Yeah.
and found the video.
Did you
Went
see
through and
that?
found the video. So how do we know, number one, that this is Connor Stallions?
How do we know that the Connor Stallion that we saw on the sideline at Central Michigan? Or are you talking about the guy that they caught at the Walmart trying to buy
Yeah, the
vodka?
Walmart. Yeah.
No, that's a different guy, Mark. That's
Then
not the
what do we-
Stallion.
Then who's that?
That's another assistant on their staff.
Oh, that's another assistant on the staff.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's a different guy.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, that particular individual, I was highly questioning their mental capacity.
Yeah, he had some shortcomings that were,
Yes.
he was lacking like in the mental capacity department.
Yeah.
It was not like he was not going to write like a novel anytime soon. He wasn't Pulitzer material there, Mark Rogers. Let's just be real.
No.
I don't see that happening in his
No.
life in the future.
No.
Not much.
Do we know
Yeah,
that gentleman's name? If he's on the Michigan
I do
staff,
not.
Somebody should have dug up his name at some point, I would
Yeah,
think.
does Fort or any of the TTUN fans? How about Moose? Any of you TTUN fans in the chat? Can you chime in and give us the name of that guy? Because he seemed like he was like mentally deranged.
Yeah, it was pretty rough to watch.
Yeah, that was bad, wasn't it?
Beyond just his own problems, he's doing what they are accusing him of, and it seems to be pretty obvious. Then that's despicable. It's horrible stuff.
Yeah, leaders and best up there, I guess, right, Mark? Is that the way the song goes or something? I don't know. Leaders and best. You gotta love it. Oh yeah, sing that song. Hey, show that video to Dace. Get his opinion on that. Maybe he'll put that in his 15 points on why his program is awesome and kicks ass.
You're also reminding me, Dave, of a guy that I used to work with, a guy named
Who's
Stu,
that?
and he was an Ohio State grad, and
Right.
he had quite the rendition of "Hail to the Victors," as you can
Oh,
imagine. It was
Please, I'll pass on that.
well, he's an Ohio State grad that had a
Oh, was it
version
like
of
a mocking version
oh,
or something?
absolutely, it was. It
Yeah.
was an
Okay.
X-rated mocking. Yes.
Yeah, I like him better already.
Yeah.
What happened to the Friday show, by the way, Mark? I thought we go live on Fridays with like
Yeah,
a
I just didn't
preview
have it in me.
show. What?
I just
No?
didn't have it in me.
No? Okay. I enjoyed the Friday preview show. We go over the games for the
I
week
know. I know.
that's going to be, and we talk a little college
Yeah.
football. It's all good, man.
Yeah.
I'll say this, by the way. I was I laid a heavy bet on Penn State minus 8.5 today. Best bet of the day by far.
Yeah, that was an easy one. Good for you.
Talk about a program going south. Boy, that did the loss to Ohio State just take a lot out of Maryland, or what was that all about?
Yeah, I guess it's Maryland, Miami, others. I don't know. Yeah.
It's what it shows is that one loss can just totally ruin a season for like somebody's season just can totally go like south if they have that like back-breaking loss that maybe just is like
Do you
we put
really
our
think that's what it was?
you just thought they were counterfeit to begin with, Mark? Is that what you're going to go with?
They lose to Ohio State like that. Actually, that was a substantially better effort than they typically give against Ohio State.
That's true. Maybe they were just like counterfeit to begin with, and they eventually just got exposed by a lot of other people, and that was the case. I will say, just kind of watching today, kind of an overview. I really thought USC was going to pull out the upset against Washington. I did not like the way Washington is trending, although my guy Michael Penix came back with a
Yep.
fury tonight. Always good to see the USC defense to cure your ills as an offense, right,
Yeah.
Mark? I guess that's the
Yeah.
case.
Yeah, that did it.
I am still on the Washington bandwagon, although again I agree, if Oregon and Washington meet again, Oregon's got them. I think on a neutral field. By the way, what were your overall thoughts on the Alabama-LSU game? I mean, I didn't get a chance to hear your earlier notes on that particular game, but
Well, I think that Alabama has figured out how to play its quarterback, and I think
yeah,
that he has, despite all of the criticism and the jumping to conclusions on his abilities and his lack thereof by zillions of people after seeing him play one game and then flocking to a certain place because of him being held out against South Florida, that I am on record here many times as being rather confident that Alabama knew what it was doing and that he would be fine and he would be more than just a capable quarterback, that he would be a threat. And I think they know exactly what they're doing with him and with that offense. And we're seeing the results of it right now.
yeah, I think Tommy Reese was like a questionable hire by the GOAT, but you know what? I think he's finally found out what Milrose's skill set is, which is like, deep shots and some quarterback run and some of that. Now, to me, though, I thought LSU's only path to victory was just basically outscore Alabama, because that LSU defense has been terrible, I think, most of the year, by the way. I think their only way to win was just like Daniels going postal and putting up like incredible numbers, which, for like over a half, he was looking really good in that game.
Yeah.
And the Alabama defense had like no answers for him. I do think this creates a path to where Alabama, Georgia, and Atlanta. Where have we heard of that before, Mark?
Well, we've heard it before, because if anyone was listening to my predictions, that's what I said was going to be the matchup.
Yeah, you did. You did. I picked LSU at the beginning of the year.
But
I
yes,
was in love with LSU. I got to say that.
But that game has, cropped up on us a few times.
Yeah, not always ended well in Atlanta for. Yeah, Alabama, Georgia has never been able to beat Alabama in Atlanta. That's just never ended well for some reason for
Are
them.
they 0-3?
Yeah.
0-3.
Well, the 3-yard short game, the national title game in 17, and 18 they lost.
Then, 0-4 if you count the championship game. Yeah. The national championship game.
Right, yeah. 0-4 if you cut the national championship game. That's right. What do you think of Georgia so far, Mark? I mean, I thought Missouri was right there actually today. It was just a couple of turnovers that basically cost them the football game.
Yeah, I think that Georgia can play with anyone in the country, but they're certainly not untouchable. I think that's pretty obvious, but I certainly would not bet against them against anyone in the country. Like, would I feel confident that anyone's going to beat them for sure?
Quarterback play's been solid. They always seem to have the two good running backs. The defense is still pretty good. It would be interesting to see if Bowers makes a comeback for them. That would be the interesting thing. If they ever get him back for like the playoff, I think that would be huge for that offense. I will say this. Watched also just a few comments on the Buckeye game today, Mark. Still continue to be impressed by Travion Henderson. Might be the worst game, by the way, I've seen by the Buckeye defense this year. By the way, they allowed too much yardage on the ground. However, still, you look up at the scoreboard, it's only 16 points given up.
Yep.
And they buckled down in the red zone, kind of just did what they had to do in the first half. My only concern is still the same concern. It's just McCord making that one error throw that he seems to have. It's just, I mean, if he could just play a clean game, I could live with that. He doesn't have to throw for 350. He just has to play a clean game. And that's it. Because he has one of the best running backs in the country and the best wide receiver in the country. And if they get a little bit of Ibuka and a little bit of Stover to go along with Harrison, this offense should be fine. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And I think that the offensive line's getting better. And Travion Henderson is a tougher runner than I've given him credit for. Maybe he's added that to his game because I certainly didn't see it when he had his big year 2 years ago. And I've not noticed it since. Maybe part of that came from not being 100% and just running timid, but now feeling fully healthy or as close to healthy as he can be at this point. And just, man, there were runs in which your typical running back, after gaining 8, 10, 12 yards, is close enough to the sideline that, there's three defenders there, just run out of bounds. They run out of bounds. And he's lowering a shoulder and driving through people to the point where I was impressed, but I was about thinking, back off.
Right.
Let's go for about 12 carries the next 2 weeks. Get him just enough to be in a rhythm, stay in that rhythm, and we don't need to see him lug it 22, 24 times next week and the next 2 weeks, unless unforeseeable things happen to keep him fresh.
Yeah, a little bit of training mixed in there. Loves to still see your guy. Yeah, I know you're a big Dallin Hayden guy. Just with a few carries. I'm not saying he's got to, I know with his struggles in pass pro, but just give him a few carries to kind of spell him a little bit. I think would be really, really helpful. I think if the team gets a little bit healthier, they missed a couple of guys on defense today, and maybe get Stover back and a Ibuka going a little bit. I think that's going to be helpful. They got 2 weeks to prepare, and it's going to be interesting. By the way, I mentioned I took the Penn State minus the 8.5.
Yes,
No. Well, I had to get some compensation today. It was a rough week last week for the NFL, so I had to make some money back. By the way, how'd you do on picks today, Mark?
I've yet to count them up. Nothing fabulous, but nothing horrible. I don't know. They're right in front of me. I haven't done the math.
How'd your dude Steve Merrill do? Is he still cooking?
Well, he took his. What was his? Oh, he took Louisville to cover against Virginia Tech. That was his.
Yeah, really.
Yes. So.
Yeah.
What?
No, that was
easily.
No.
Yes.
No, I was just wondering how is his picks overall doing, though?
Oh, I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Gosh,
I don't check out his picks.
Would you say like last time he was like 15-1 against the spread or something like that?
Oh, I'm talking about the pick that he gives to us each week. That's all I know about. I'm not keeping track of anything else.
Okay. No, previously though, what was it last year or something like that?
Yeah, he was 13-1 last year.
13-1 against the spread. That's amazing.
Yeah. And so this year that must put him at 4-3, 4-4, whatever it is. Okay. I don't know.
No, but your thoughts on Penn State though, Mark? I thought they looked pretty good. Aller looked decent, Their defense
I started to watch the cut down highlight package of the big plays, but I didn't watch any of the game. Yeah, I hear that Aller cut loose, and maybe after getting a pick out of the way the week before, he's less tentative. I don't know. Maybe after throwing the game-winning touchdown pass against Indiana, that's boosted him. I don't know. Maybe Maryland's just awful. I don't want to take too much away from beating Maryland after everyone else is beating them. They just lost to Northwestern the week before. So, shoot, if Northwestern can put up, 33 points up against them?
Agreed. Yeah, we'll find out a lot next week. I hear
Yes,
you.
we will.
Yeah, both ways, I think.
I hate to say this, but
Go ahead.
I think Michigan's going to win that game by a couple touchdowns.
I would favor them by at least 2 scores.
Yeah.
If I had to see that game, I would say somewhere in like a 31-17, somewhere in that neighborhood
Yeah.
kind of game, maybe 28-14,
Yep.
somewhere in that neighborhood kind of game. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. I just don't know if Penn State has enough offensively. I think defensively, I still think they're very good, especially, if they get back Chop Robinson at defensive end. I think that could be, a force multiplier for them, along that defensive line that could help them out a little bit.
And Michigan's not running the ball that well.
No, they've not. Quorum has not been great running the ball. It's pretty much been JJ slinging it,
Mhm.
and that's been it. It's kind of flipped. Their offense has kind of flipped around a little bit from a year ago. Been more based on the pass game than the run game. So, good week of college football, though. What do you think in the books going forward?
I think that the same teams are the same teams at the top, and that we've got a litany of teams that that can win games against each other. Really, nothing happened I thought it was a very entertaining day of college football, but nothing happened that surprised me whatsoever. It was pretty much chalk across the board.
Gosh, I can't believe Texas that Texas K-State game. Wow.
Now,
I mean,
I would have liked to have seen that turn the other way just to make things more interesting, because I just didn't like this whole it's going to be Texas, Oklahoma automatically. Everybody's marking this down the first week of October.
Right.
And obviously there are teams that are capable of beating either one of them. That's pretty they're not even playing in a league that's that good. And if Kansas State and Houston and Oklahoma State and Kansas can challenge and beat those two teams.
Right. Yeah, I mean, by the way, is there a target from when yours is supposed to come back at quarterback? Have you heard that for them?
I don't know.
Okay. Because I had heard he was out like a few weeks. I didn't know if he was supposed to be back before the end of the season for Texas. That's going to be interesting for them.
Yeah, I really don't know. I've not looked it up. I'll look it up right now, but yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I still think they could run the table. I don't know if it's going to work out, well for them, to be able to slip in and get the 4th seed. I tried to lay out the best case scenario for them, but, Oklahoma now losing again isn't, exactly helping the cause for them to get another quality, data point and victory there.
Yeah, well, they still have the Alabama game in hand, so that gives them, some kind of tiebreaker on Florida State if it comes to that.
Yeah, that would help if especially maybe if Alabama runs the table would be probably pretty helpful for them too.
Yeah.
Or at least in 11-1, Alabama still looks good. So, all right, Mark.
All right, David.
Busy day for you then, huh?
Meaning today.
Yes.
Always.
Well, a good
busy
day
and long.
Busy and long. Well, a good day of college football. Always good to talk to you, Mark.
Thanks, David. Appreciate you stopping by.
Take care, my friend.
Erica, thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate you. Patience of a saint, Mark. I don't know how in the world you do it. Seriously. I don't either. For other reasons, probably. All right. Thank you for that, Erica. And I believe we have also Nick chiming in. November 23rd, let's make a bet for the people. I'm confident. Are you? Did we not have this conversation like all of 6 minutes ago? So, yeah, am I confident Ohio State's going to beat Michigan? Not really. Am I confident Michigan's going to beat Ohio State? No, not really. And I'm not betting like a dumb fan. So there we go. So yeah, I haven't, I've been doing this for a long time on YouTube, and had this channel for a long time, and I've not bet anyone. So why should I start now? Again, unless there is a rather financially incentive-laden reason to do it. If there is a business reason to do it, then I'll do it. Whether that's going to benefit me financially or benefit this channel, I'll do those two things. But again, I'm not into making dumb bets. So, Nick, thank you so much for the contribution. We appreciate that. And thank you for, and that in no way means that I'm upset. Nobody's really ever made me upset on this, I don't think. Well, people have made dumb things, and I yell at people from time to time and call them idiots, but I'm truly not like mad at them as like mad in terms of like have some kind of righteous anger toward them like I would if we were talking about something that mattered. Like if we were talking about, you know, my children or talking about the state of the world or the state of the country, then yeah, I may get pissed off about that. But we're just talking about college football. Now, some people piss me off because they're dumb and they really don't, like a lot of people on social media in terms of the college football discussion, say a lot of stupid things that are inaccurate. Really, the thing that pisses me off more than anything, and it doesn't happen much on my own show right here with all of you, or at least I don't see it too much in the chat, is like the situation a couple weekends ago on the College Football After Dark show that our guys, you know, Jordan Bowman and Ben and others host. And I don't know what it was a couple weekends ago. Maybe I need to watch that show a little bit more often, knowing that it's on my channel. And they were spewing out so much garbage. Like, I mean, like inaccuracies, like citing teams that were wrong, the wrong team and the wrong this and the wrong fact. And, you know, when people are citing this is a fact and it's wrong, like that didn't happen. That team didn't beat that team. That, like, I was in the chat constantly correcting them to say, no, that's not right. That's wrong. That didn't happen. That's what pisses me off. I was talking to somebody the other day about going on YouTube, somebody who had some ideas about starting a YouTube channel. And they said something about being criticized, or did you anticipate being criticized? And I said, oh, yeah, I anticipated that people would say I'm stupid. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's going to happen to everyone. Shoot, you can look up any real expert on a real topic and people are going to call them stupid and they don't know what they're talking about. But I said, you know, the one thing that annoys me beyond anything else is when somebody tells me that I said something that I didn't say. I probably have to about 3 or 4 times a week, and I don't look at all the comments, so I probably miss many other times that I could respond this way. But where I have to respond, you did not watch the video, or you did not listen to the video, please watch the video, because either the person only watched half or they didn't watch it all. They went off the title and got mad about something because of the title. Like the other day, I made this statement in reviewing the Big Ten schedule of 2024 that the Big Ten may have the best conference in college football in 2024. So 2 key items there are the word may, not that they will for sure. I said they might, they may have the best conference next season. And number 2, I said next season, 2024. Some person, stop with this crap about the Big Ten being the best conference. I'm like, watch the video and please, this time, listen to the video. So that's what annoys me more than anything else, is when people tell me that I said things that I didn't say. It's like when I had a bunch of moron Notre Dame fans on here all summer saying that they were going to beat Ohio State. I have no issue with that. You like your team, you have confidence in your team. Absolutely. I'm never going to argue with that. But when they say, like, it's going to happen for sure, like it's been declared from on high that Notre Dame's going to beat Ohio State. Like, I had people tell me, scads of people. I'm not talking about one person. If it was one person, okay, there's one moron. No, dozens of people over months and months and months and months that this was guaranteed, or that Notre Dame is a better program than Ohio State. Well, that's just fiction. That's just being dumb. That's just either you are lying and you know it, so you are trolling, which again, that's all part of this ridiculous game. You're trolling intentionally, or you're just lying and trying to convince a bunch of people that aren't smart enough to fight back or correct you. So you just figure you'll spew out a bunch of either tainted or skewed facts, or you're that stupid and delusional that you actually believe that Notre Dame has been a better program than Ohio State, when in fact it's not even debatable. And here we are in another college football season in which it's, again, not debatable. You know, look where we were like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And granted, Notre Dame played a great game and could have easily, of course, I would be stupid on the other side of this, delusional, stupid, to say like Ohio State rolled them and it was, no, that was a coin flip game. Complete coin flip game. But since then, I think we see where the two programs still stand. Notre Dame's a top 15 program. Ohio State's a top 3 or 4 program. Meaning they're definitely not for sure 3 or 4. They could be 1, they could be 2, they could be 3, they could be, but they're right there. All right. Appreciate you all being here at the Voice of College Football. I could go on about things that annoy me all night, probably. But none of you, I appreciate all of you. Thank you for being here. There's one particular person, though, that has been writing me incessantly, like 5 or 6 times a day, sending me long, arduous emails. And I've had to tell this person, even though my business email is out there for everyone to take advantage of, MarkRogersTV at Gmail. If you have some kind of suggestion, request, or if you would like to partner with us here at the Voice of College Football, that means if you own a business or are connected in some way to a business, and we could benefit you in a lot of ways. So if you're not quite sure what ways, we can discuss that. So please hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail, and we can partner on a sponsorship. Okay. For things like that, please contact me, MarkRogersTV at Gmail. That's why I throw it out there. This particular individual, I have had to tell them, like, I'm talking about, I've been way too nice. Again, too nice. I've had to tell them like 20 times. I'm serious. In the last couple months, stop emailing me. Stop. And then they promise that they will. And then they do again. And then they again and again and again. And I don't read any of them. I just delete them. So I delete like 9 in a row. And then the 10th one, I just say, do not email me anymore. And they send me football stuff that belongs in the comment section of a video. And I say, you need to send this to the comment section of the video. Or you need to call me and we will discuss this. But I am not there's about, I don't know, there's probably 20 or 25 people that DM me on Twitter all the time. And they like want me to respond to their stupid questions. Like, I don't mind if you were the only person, but I'm not wasting half my day responding to DMs. Call me, comment in the comment section of the videos. No. Or they send me just dumb memes and stuff, and just ignore it. But that's part of the deal. So if that's the worst that comes of it, it's not that big of a cross to bear. That's for sure. All right, we've got our guy Ryan coming back here. Keep it up, Mark. I appreciate this every Saturday, and I'm giving love today. Yes, you are, Ryan. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your contributions. Top 25 that actually makes sense will be out. I might stay up and do it. We got an hour back. We fell back on the clock, right? Might do that right now, even though I've got to get up at 8. So it might be bright and early that you'll have your top 25 that actually makes sense, or it might be sometime tomorrow. There's a big leaf pickup tomorrow, or I believe it's first thing on Monday. So I've got to blow the leaves in the street tomorrow to get the leaves cleaned up. So that's going to take some time. All right, folks, appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. We will see you with the top 25 that actually makes sense. College football after dark on Sunday. And who knows, maybe we'll show up for a live stream at some point over the weekend as well. Enjoy your Sunday. Keep it locked in here. We appreciate you.